Chapter 2033. Xia Zhilong's face turned green when he saw Yi Qinghan's equipment. He wanted to abuse Yi Qinghan with his equipment, but he didn't expect Yi Qinghan's equipment to be even better than his. 3 eternal sacred artifact. Although they didn't have the pressure and support of a real sacred artifact, Xia Zhilong didn't have any of them. Boom! Yi Qinghan stabbed Zhongquang into the ground. His aura soared as he held the hilt. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Crown Prince, let me see what you've got." Xia Zhilong took a deep breath and shook the 9-dragon fan. His dragon robe emitted a divine light as it quietly changed. A golden dragon swam in his dragon robe. It was so lifelike that it looked like a real dragon was imprisoned in it to support the defense of the dragon robe. The Holy Empire's holy dragon robe. Isn't this worn by the Emperor? Shang Jingwen was shocked. He was stunned by Xia Zhilong's strength. Then, he looked at Yi Qinghan's equipment. Sweat dripped down his forehead like rain. Jealousy and envy appeared in his eyes. This was 2F** king infuriating. This was simply a form of injury. They were both true disciples, but why was the gap so big? Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong were 100 meters apart. Their robes were emitting a divine light as if they were fighting, unwilling to submit to each other. Their auras grew stronger and stronger. The heavenly dragon broke through the sky and formed a huge shadow behind Xia Zhilong. It looked down at Yi Qinghan. A yin and yang vortex appeared behind Yi Qinghan. It was a natural Tao, and heaven and earth roared. It was a beautiful scene, but the moment he drew his blade, his aura and the surrounding aura became domineering and crazy. "Crown Prince, I'd like to exchange a few moves with you today. We've fought twice in the past, but it was never a fair fight. Today it's a fair fight." Yi Qinghan yelled as he grinned wickedly. Xia Zhilong's face was gloomy and murderous. He gently waved the 9-dragon fan, and heaven and earth roared. The mountain range was like a dragon swallowing the essence of the sun and moon. Trillions of stars moved and converged into 9 heavenly dragons that crossed the top of the world. Xia Zhilong had cultivated to the 32nd level of the stellar art. He could change the order of the great Tao and control the stars. Shang Jingwen was deeply hurt. At this moment, the reason why Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong could not be resisted was not because their battle prowess had reached a point of despair, but because their equipment was too awesome. They were so awesome that they were already in an undefeatable position before the battle even began. Shashasha, whoosh, Shang Jingwen quickly left. He did not want to stay in the center of the battlefield. It was not that he was not strong enough, but he could not afford to provoke the two of them. Moments after Shang Jingwen left, Yi Qinghan raised his frenzy saber. His frenzy saber stirred up a storm of lightning. Purple lightning wandered about, and the shaking mountain range quickly returned to its original position. It had been forcefully suppressed in place as it contended with Xia Zhilong. Art of the stars, shift the dragon veins of the heavens and earth, defy the heavens and change fate, transform into a long river, and move the myriad stars for me. Whoosh! Xia Zhilong bathed in the Milky Way. His body was like a god of war, absorbing the power of heaven and earth. The 9 dragons' fans stirred slightly, and the universe became restless. The 9 dragons appeared and moved side by side. With a wave of the fan's tail, the 9 dragons roared and charged towards Yi Qinghan. Although the 9 dragons were not real dragons, they were formed by Xia Zhilong gathering the power of countless stars, the sun and the moon. The 9 dragons formed by the stars in the sky moved in unison with the 9 divine dragons formed by Xia Zhilong. They brought with them the power of heaven and smashed towards the ground. Boom! When the divine dragons went to war, not a blade of grass would survive. The enemy would not rest until they were dead. Whoosh! The divine dragons swung their tails, and the airwaves swept out. Rocks pierced through the cliff and fell from the sky, smashing towards Yi Qinghan. Roar! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and danced. His saber had the power to split the heavens and earth. He soared into the sky like a sharp sword, and his saber cut open the sky. Saber radiance shot out in all directions towards the 9 dragons. Boom! The airwaves from the two collided. Lightning and dragon power tore at each other, and the airwaves spread out 1,000 meters. The surroundings were razed to the ground, and after they crashed into the sides of the canyon, the world shook. Bam 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 bam! Immediately after, the 7-foot frenzy was as fast as lightning. He slashed out 9 times consecutively, and each slash accurately struck the dragon's tails. The strong impact made one's scalp tingle, and their hair stood on end. Open! Yi Qinghan clenched the frenzy and roared. The world changed color, as if it was going to split the world apart. Roar! The 9 dragons roared together, and their tails cracked. They were actually split apart by Yi Qinghan's saber. Crack crack crack! The sound of bones breaking echoed for hundreds of miles. Even Shang Jingwen, who was hundreds of miles away, could hear it clearly. Boom! The 9 divine dragons formed by divine power instantly collapsed. Yi Qinghan's aura was like a rainbow. His Taoist robe absorbed all the chaotic and violent energy for his own use. He added it to the frenzy saber and charged toward Xia Zhilong with an even stronger aura. Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed like lightning. He held the 9 dragons fan in his hand and charged towards Yi Qinghan. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Boom boom boom! The two of them relied on their invincible defense to kill each other. One of them had the strength to pick up mountains, while the other had the speed to steal the heavens. They constantly collided and swooped down. The saber light rushed into the depths of the universe. A few short sabers appeared at the tip of the 9 dragons' fan. They were all made of top-grade immortal materials. They slammed into the frenzy saber, creating ear-piercing and soul-piercing sound. Crack crack crack! The two of them collided thousands of times, collapsing Shixiang Canyon. Everyone within 1,000 miles could see it clearly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's saber slashed past Xia Zhilong's side and into the northern side of Shixiang Canyon. It actually cut off half of the cliff. Boom! Xia Zhilong's forehead was covered in sweat. The majestic power of the stars continued to strengthen his golden body. The sacred dragon robe absorbed 90% of the aftershocks from each collision, but his hands were trembling slightly. Neither of them was willing to be outdone. Techniques were superfluous. They were all fighting head-on. Slash! 9 dragons annihilation. Explode. Although the two of them were panting, they did not stop. They gathered their peak strength and slammed into each other again. Although 90% of the aftershocks were absorbed by the Taoist robe and sacred dragon robe, the impact sent the two of them flying 1,000 meters away and crashing into the ground. Bang! Yi Qinghan was smashed into a deep pit. Even frenzy was thrown to the side. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn. Blood stained his Taoist robe. His eyes were seeing stars. He struggled to crawl out of the pit. Xia Zhilong did not have it easy either. His previous arrogance was now in a sorry state. Although his injuries were not serious, he was exhausted. He was so exhausted that he could not even hold the 9 dragons' fan. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan grabbed at the air and charged at Xia Zhilong. He roared, "Come on! Let's hurt each other! Let's see who can last until the end!" Xia Zhilong's face was livid. His combat techniques were clearly much stronger than Yi Qinghan's, but in terms of physical strength, even 10 of him might not be a match for Yi Qinghan. At that moment, their equipment was about the same. Yi Qinghan even had an extra pair of gloves. If they continued fighting, he would be at a disadvantage. Scram! Xia Zhilong mobilized the cosmic stars as the stars in the sky converged into one. He charged at Yi Qinghan with the force of a thunderbolt. Boom! Yi Qinghan raised his saber and slashed down. However, it was as though the saber had struck a saint. It was powerless. Frenzy left his hand as his Taoist robe emitted a glow that surged into the clouds. The Yinyang Grand Array had been activated to its peak, but it still had not absorbed all of its strength. The remaining force smashed Yi Qinghan into Xixiang Valley and into the mountain. Half of the cliff was smashed into pieces. Xia Zhilong's strike emptied his soul. He collapsed to the ground, his face pale. This was a forbidden technique. Chapter 2034. Xia Zhilong collapsed on the ground. His eyes were lifeless and his face was as pale as paper. The 9-dragon fan returned to his hand and he looked into the depths of the canyon. "You're not dead yet?" Xia Zhilong said coldly. Half of the canyon was flattened and the rocks were uneven. Yi Qinghan was nowhere to be seen. Only Zhongquang was stuck in the mountain. Boom! Boom, boom, boom! Terrifying auras kept coming from the depths of the canyon. The rocks shook and sand flew everywhere. Within a valley, Yi Qinghan struggled several times but was unable to stand up. He spat out blood all over the ground, and his internal organs were almost crushed. He coughed up a few mouthfuls of thick blood mixed with fragments of his internal organs. His eyes were overflowing with blood. Crack, crack, crack! Yi Qinghan grabbed a huge rock with his bloody hand and stood up. His legs were shaking and he leaned against the rock. He looked into the distance and estimated that he was about 2,000 meters away. His Taoist robe wasn't damaged at all. It had withstood 90% of Xia Zhilong's attack, but his body couldn't withstand the remaining 10%. His absolute saint golden body was badly damaged and bathed in a river of blood. Holy light suffused the air. Humph! Yi Qinghan let out a muffled groan and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and discovered that his body had been crippled by at least 50%. His divine power had been depleted, and he could barely hold on to 30% of his strength. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out more than 10 divine elixirs. He swallowed them and they melted in his mouth. His injuries were slowly recovering. Boom! After a while, Yi Qinghan stepped out 1,000 meters and entered the battle zone. At this time, Xia Zhilong saw Yi Qinghan rushing over and quickly swallowed a golden divine elixir. He pretended to be strong and stood up. His eyes were full of anger and unwillingness. "You're not dead yet!" Xia Zhilong shouted angrily. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and pulled Zhongquang, who was stabbed into the mountain, into his hand. The saber light pierced through the mountain rocks, causing pebbles to fly everywhere. Yi Qinghan leaned on the saber hilt and said in a sloppy manner, "Die? I'm so lucky. Crown Prince, you're disappointed. However, I'm also disappointed in you. I didn't expect the top expert of the younger generation to only be able to tie with me." Yi Qinghan clicked his tongue and shook his head, as if he had expected better from him. Xia Zhilong's eyes burned with anger as he looked at Yi Qinghan's equipment from head to toe. Everything was of the highest quality. Just his equipment alone was better than his own. Coupled with his strength and physique, Yi Qinghan was already in an invincible position before the battle even began. "You're only relying on your equipment. Otherwise, I would have crushed your bones," Xia Zhilong sneered. Yi Qinghan smirked at Xia Zhilong's holy dragon robe and 9-dragon fan. He mocked, "Your equipment isn't bad either. Take off the holy dragon robe and suppress the 9-dragon fan. Let's fight one-on-one. Let's see if I can break your bones one by one." Haha! Xia Zhilong laughed and looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. He asked coldly, "Do you still have the strength to fight? I'm already surprised that you can stand up after taking a blow from my forbidden technique. You're just an arrow at the end of its flight, aren't you?" Yi Qinghan saw that Xia Zhilong was unwilling to fight for a long time. He was sure that Xia Zhilong's forbidden technique wasn't easy to use. He probably didn't have the strength to fight anymore. However, with the holy dragon robe and 9-dragon fan protecting him, he couldn't kill Xia Zhilong with his current strength. Haha! Yi Qinghan sneered. Not only can I stand up, but I can also run and jump. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you to the end. If you don't want to fight, I'm leaving. I'm very busy. The two of them were already at the end of their rope. Their minds and bodies were exhausted, but they didn't dare appear too weak. They were afraid that the other party would really kill them if he still had the strength to fight. The two of them acted arrogantly and bluffed to scare each other. However, this move was still effective. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to stay any longer. Xia Zhilong also had the intention to retreat. When he saw Yi Qinghan say that he was busy, he immediately said, "If you want to talk about busy, I'm even busier. I'll spare you for now, but I advise you to return the ultimate divine medal. Otherwise, I'll definitely take your life next time. Then we'll talk about it next time. Goodbye, Crown Prince. We'll meet again someday. I'll take my leave first. If you can't leave, wait for your blood-robed guards to come back and support you. Don't try to show off." Yi Qinghan laughed arrogantly. He waved his hand and took Zhong Kuang away arrogantly. Xia Zhilong's face was ashen as he watched Yi Qinghan leave. He reluctantly took a step forward. His body swayed and his soul went into a daze. He almost fainted. In the end, he had no choice but to watch Yi Qinghan leave. The war zone returned to peace. The mountains on both sides of the Xixiang Grand Canyon had disappeared. They had been razed to the ground. Shang Jingwen, who was standing in the distance, saw the war zone and quickly rushed over. When he saw the terrifying scene in the war zone, a trace of horror appeared in his eyes. An unawakened eternal sacred artifact was already so domineering. The destruction it caused was even more terrifying than an upper-level eternal sacred artifact. Once it was awakened, there would be no living thing within 1,000 miles. "Your Highness, are you all right?" Shang Jingwen hurried over and asked in shock. Xia Zhilong looked at Shang Jingwen warily and said coldly, "I'm fine. Brother Shang, help me kill Yi Qinghan. He's seriously injured and probably has less than 30% of his strength left." Shang Jingwen's face turned ugly. He said in a deep voice, "Your Highness, you're making things difficult for me. If Yi Qinghan didn't have so many eternal sacred artifacts, I could kill him even if he was at his peak. However, he has 3 eternal sacred artifacts that have yet to be awakened. How can I be his match? Let alone 30% of his strength, even if he only has 10% of his strength left, he can just lie there and let me kill him. What can I do to him?" Xia Zhilong was extremely unwilling. He gripped the 9 dragons' fan tightly as monstrous killing intent flashed in his eyes. At that moment, a mystic rushed over from afar. Only then did Xia Zhilong heave a sigh of relief. With someone on his side, he felt a sense of security. Therefore, after emptying his soul, he completely collapsed to the ground without any strength left. 1,000 miles away, Yi Qinghan clutched his chest and half-knelt on the ground. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. No matter how much he pretended, he couldn't change the nature of his body. If it were anyone else with such injuries, they would have died long ago. However, he had endured it and traveled 1,000 miles. Cough, cough, cough. Yi Qinghan kept coughing up blood. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the star-twisting vine and the multicolored snake to protect his surroundings. The star-twisting vine covered him in thousands of vines. Yi Qinghan swallowed a few sacred pills and lay on the vines, allowing the star-twisting vine to carry him forward. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dozens of vines intertwined with each other as they climbed over mountains. They were extremely powerful and could even uproot ancient trees. They traveled 30,000 miles in a day, day and night. They didn't know fatigue. After traveling for more than a month, the star-twisting vine brought Yi Qinghan to the border between the battle race and the eternal sacred land of Sword Dao. This place was more dangerous and complicated. Many evil overlords wandered around here. The star-twisting vine stopped. Yi Qinghan was wrapped in a cocoon inside the star-twisting vine. Light radiated in all directions as if he was about to break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly. Chapter 2035. At the far end of the Xixiang sacred land, inside the mysterious mountain, there were too many experts around. It was either a public road or a dangerous place. Even the start-whining vine could not move forward. In order to avoid being disturbed, the start-whining vine chose to hide near a small mountain. It used vines as a disguise and attached itself to the thorns to hide Yi Qinghan inside. Yi Qinghan's body was surrounded by a thick layer of cocoon. His injuries were recovering extremely fast inside the cocoon. His internal organs were also recovering rapidly. However, the injuries this time were too severe. He had not fully recovered even after a whole month. Huff, huff, huff. Dong, dong, dong. Yi Qinghan's breathing was steady and his heartbeat was strong. It indicated that his injuries were mostly healed. Although he looked like he had not woken up yet, his divine sense was already operating. His soul was clear, and the power in his body was like a torrential river. This battle had allowed him to rise again, and his battle power had increased by another level. Crack, 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 the cocoon broke. Cracks appeared on his chest first, and then spread all over his body. It was not fast, and when the cocoon on his body was completely broken, 3 days had already passed. On the morning of the 4th day, the sun was shining brightly. The birds were singing and the flowers were fragrant. Beasts walked past the foot of the mountain, and they did not notice that there was a living person inside the vine. Bang! With a crisp sound, the cocoon on Yi Qinghan's body exploded. His sparkling and translucent body emitted a holy light. The perfect saint body crazily absorbed the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The stars in the sky that had yet to disperse suddenly burst out with a monstrous starlight, bathing the entire star-twining vine in holy light. Yi Qinghan's body formed a flow of yin and yang. It was like a huge black hole, absorbing the starlight and spiritual qi. After entering his body, it automatically turned into divine power. It was majestic and vast, and it quickly surged. A boundless ocean quickly appeared in his dantian, and it was all divine power. The mountain in the morning should have been peaceful and tranquil. However, at this moment it was majestic. A pressure slowly spread out, and all the beasts did not dare to move. Hua! The star-twining vine spread out its vines, allowing Yi Qinghan to directly absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and the starlight of the sun and moon. The perfect saint body once again erupted, and one could even see the flowing light clearly. Ka ka ka! Yi Qinghan subconsciously clenched his fist. Cracking sounds came from his iron fist. His eyebrows twitched slightly as he stretched his arms, and his entire body emitted crisp sounds. Yi Qinghan let out a low groan as his perfect body was revealed. His physical body was wild and domineering, but there was also a warm energy attached to his body that prevented him from using his full strength. So King comfortable. Fighting with him is even better than breaking through a major realm. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes and lay on the vine. His eyes were wide open as he lazily muttered to himself. Screech! A remnant shadow rushed out from Yi Qinghan's body. The god-devouring eagle transformed into a bolt of lightning and soared into the clouds. Its wings covered the sky. With a light flap, it actually stirred up time control. With a long howl, it caused the mountains to collapse. A lower-level flying beast. There weren't many in the world. It was especially so for a beast with a very low bloodline like it. It could only reach this stage because of its master's blood and qi nourishment. The god-devouring eagle had evolved. Back then, even a great emperor-level beast could not reach it. Now, it had reached a realm that many humans could not reach. Because of Yi Qinghan, not only did the god-devouring eagle evolve, but the most powerful multicolored snake and star-twining vine had also evolved and reached the lower level. In terms of combat strength, they were not considered weak among the lower-level humans. As for the other spiritual pets, they had more or less benefited. Only the divine bird remained unmoved. It was as if it had nothing to do with Yi Qinghan. The divine bird looked at the few spiritual pets that rushed out and was furious. It asked unwillingly, "I have followed boss for so long. Why haven't I benefited? Why have you all broken through?" Hua! The god-devouring eagle rushed back to the ground. In a flash, it transformed into a human. It was very rough and looked very domineering. Its eyes were full of spirit and a frightening light flashed. However, when it stood in front of Yi Qinghan, it was very respectful. That kind of reverence would not change because of its cultivation. The god-devouring eagle looked at the divine bird and said in a muffled voice, "This is a matter of talent and character. Bulsh *T. I am your boss. How dare you blaspheme boss?" The divine bird roared. The god-devouring eagle shrugged and said proudly, "I am now a complete human. It is more appropriate for you to command the other spiritual pet. I am a lower-level cultivator. You can stand aside." The divine bird was so angry that its divine feathers exploded. It glared at the star-twining vine and multicolored snake and threatened, "Do you dare to betray me? Be careful that this divine bird will not let you off." The multicolored snake looked down on the divine bird. It raised its huge snake head and looked into the distance with disdain. Only the star-twining vine that accompanied the divine bird was still shamelessly entangling the divine bird. Its head was like a tentacle that helped the divine bird smooth its feathers as if it was trying to curry favor. The divine bird looked at the god-devouring eagle and multicolored snake proudly and said with disdain, "Just you wait. When this divine bird nurtures the star-twining vine to the middle level, I will definitely teach you a lesson." Swoosh! Swoosh! The star-twining vine waved its vines as if it was demonstrating its power. At this moment, a few groups of people rushed over from afar. The strongest was in the middle level. Some were even sector lords. However, most of them were in the lower level. Ha ha ha, there is a lower-level flying beast. It is an eagle-type flying beast that is good at attacking. It is definitely a divine item. If we capture it and sell it to those rich people, it is equivalent to a year's worth of income. A few lower-level cultivators formed a team and rushed over from afar. They surrounded Yi Qinghan and his few divine pet. "If you have the strength to snatch the treasure, then go ahead. This is a no-man's land. Everyone give me Tiger Dragon Howl some face. Let me have this eagle-type flying beast. The next time we meet, I will retreat." A cold and elegant scholar was very elegant. At this moment, he was wielding a divine sword and came over, causing the expressions of those lower-level experts to change. Tiger Dragon Howl was an expert among the lower-level experts. His strength was incredible. If he didn't kill someone, he would be crippled. In this area, there was almost no one in the lower level who was a match for him. After cultivating the heaven-returning sword, even the middle-level experts weren't willing to fight him to the death. Once he appeared, those lower-level and perfect sector lord adventurers' expressions changed as they all retreated. At this moment, there was a loud explosion that caused all the experts within a few miles to change their expressions. A huge tiger stomped on the mountain rocks and walked over. There was actually a tall and sturdy man sitting on top of it. He was holding a steel saber and was looking around angrily. "All of you, scram! This eagle belongs to this daddy. You dare to oppose me, Kuedahu? Are you tired of living?" At this moment, even Tiger Dragon Howl's expression changed. This Kuedahu was definitely one of the top 30 experts in this no-man's land. There were more than a dozen upper-level experts. Few could compare to him. The moment he appeared, the situation was set. Everyone retreated, including Tiger Dragon Howl. Kuedahu looked down at Yi Qinghan's group and reached out to grab the god-devouring eagle. At this moment, Yi Qinghan stretched again and sat up from the ground. His handsome face revealed a trace of suspicion. He looked at Kue Dahu, who reached out to grab him. He waved his hand and slapped Kue Dahu's palm. Ka! Kue Dahu's hand was actually broken. His body seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. He and the huge tiger flew out together and smashed into the valley. A mournful scream reverberated in the air. He didn't even know what happened when he fainted. Yi Qinghan was also baffled. He didn't know what Kue Dahu was trying to do. He only reached out to stop him. He didn't expect Kue Dahu to break his hand. Chapter 2036. Roar. Kue Dahu curled up and hugged his right hand as he screamed. His tears were about to fall. Yi Qinghan had an innocent look on his face as he reached out to look at his hand. He was surprised that he had casually waved his hand. Logically speaking, he should not have been able to beat a middle-level expert into such a state. My strength just now seemed to be much stronger than before. Wasn't the profoundness contained within the Taiji immortal canon? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself, puzzled. Congratulations on Master's cultivation success. You have become a true legendary expert, said the God-devourer eagle with a bow. Yi Qinghan scratched his head and muttered, Is that so? I was wondering why it was so powerful just now. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stood up and summoned his divine pet. Only the God-devourer eagle took human form and followed him as they walked towards Kue Dahu. Yi Qinghan said apologetically, I'm really sorry. I was just casually attacking. How could I have known that your strength was so weak? Kue Dahu, who had been holding back his tears, immediately burst into tears when he heard Yi Qinghan's words. Yi Qinghan's words hurt him even more than if he had been beaten up. It was too stimulating. He had cultivated his entire life and had finally reached this stage. He was at least a middle-level expert. He had never expected that he would become weak in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan saw Kue Dahu crying so sadly and felt a little apologetic. He hurriedly comforted him, Don't cry, don't cry. You are at least a middle-level expert and a man. Be strong. You have to change your mindset. Isn't it an honor to be defeated by me? Kue Dahu cried even more sadly. Yi Qinghan's words had seriously hurt his Dao heart. Yi Qinghan shook his head and casually threw out a holy elixir. He said impatiently, A man is so wishy-washy like a woman. Are you trying to scare me with your cries? The number of people I've killed is more than the number of tears you've shed. Stop pretending to be pitiful in front of me. I'll give you this saint pill. If you don't want to live after your wounds are healed, you can find a mountain and hang yourself. With that, Yi Qinghan turned to leave. Along the way, Yi Qinghan kept reflecting on that palm strike. That casual strike was even more powerful than when he was at his peak. After simulating it a few times, he finally grasped the mysteries of that palm strike. Yi Qinghan trekked through mountains and rivers, followed closely by the God-Eater eagle. They entered the eternal sacred land of Sword Dao a few days later. Golden Origin City was a city northeast of the eternal Sword Dao sacred land. Yi Qinghan quickly entered the city and teleported to Lookout City a few days later. He was stopped by a few Sword Dao sect disciples as soon as he stepped out of the formation. Uncle Master Yi, we're disciples of the Sword Dao sect. The Chess Saint has ordered us to invite you to the Sword Dao sect. We've also prepared a cloud-piercer beast for you. These young disciples were stationed in Lookout City all year round. They knew the situation of the outside world very well. They seemed to have known that Yi Qinghan would appear here today, so they came here in advance to prepare. When they saw Yi Qinghan, they immediately stepped forward and bowed. Yi Qinghan frowned and asked, Why is the Chess Saint looking for me? Uncle Master Yi, you're making things difficult for us. This sentence was sent by our sect's holy son. We're not qualified to know too much, the disciples said in unison. Yi Qinghan nodded and gave them some pills. He then followed the disciples into the city. There was already a cloud-piercer beast ready to go in the city lord's manor. Yi Qinghan rode the cloud-piercer beast. This kind of fierce beast was one of the fastest flying beasts. Its speed was comparable to the upper realm. Moreover, it could gallop continuously for a month. It was the best tool for traveling. After traveling for more than 10 days, the vast holy city appeared in front of Yi Qinghan's eyes. Half a day later, he arrived outside the city. Yi Qinghan did not understand why the chess saint had summoned him at this time. However, he still took the cloud-piercer beast and quickly rushed into the city, heading straight for the Sword Dao sect. As soon as he arrived at the gate of the Sword Dao sect, Jian Shisan came up to him with an anxious face. "Brother Yi, you're finally here. I was really afraid that the disciples of the major cities wouldn't be able to find you," Jian Shisan said happily. Yi Qinghan asked in puzzlement, "Brother Shisan, what's the matter? Why did you call me here using the chess saint's name?" "It's not really using the chess saint's name. He asked me to inform you that there are many blood-robed guards around the heaven-suppressing palace. There is even a saint nearby. The chess saint is worried that it will trigger a war between the sacred lands. So, he specifically asked you to control yourself when you return to the heaven-suppressing palace. Do not give the Holy Empire a chance to attack. Otherwise, the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground will be in a very awkward position and you will be in even more danger," Jian Shisan quickly said. "The Holy Empire dares to cross several sacred lands and attack us in the Sword Dao Sacred Ground?" Yi Qinghan frowned and asked. "Sigh, times have changed. The Holy Empire's crown prince is very aggressive now. His strength is far beyond our young generation. He has already broken many rules. If the older generation does not speak, no one in the younger generation can suppress them. They are used to being domineering and the other sacred lands can't do anything about it. Now they are sending out their palace lord. As long as they do not attack our sacred land's main cities first, we can only protest. Besides, my Saint Lord's teacher is not willing to fall out with the Holy Empire over such a small matter," Jian Shisan said softly. Yi Qinghan nodded and continued asking, "Then, does the chess saint have anything else for me? If not, I will return to the heaven-suppressing palace immediately." "No, the chess saint's martial uncle just asked me to tell you that you must control yourself and not give the saint a chance to attack. Otherwise, even if he wants to protect you, he won't have the chance. Also, the person behind you will be exposed. By then, it will be a world war," Jian Shisan reminded with a deep voice. Yi Qinghan nodded silently and clasped his fists. "Brother Shisan, thank you for the reminder. I will return first. Let's drink and chat after I am done." Jian Shisan did not ask him to stay. He nodded and gestured with his hand. Yi Qinghan no longer hesitated and rushed out of the city. He rode on the cloud-piercing beast and continued his journey. After another half a month, he entered the Western District's Lookout City. Using the teleportation portal, he appeared outside of the heaven-suppressing palace city on the 5th day. Just as he arrived at the heaven-suppressing palace city, he could feel a faint trace of hostile aura. There were many powerful strangers roaming around. They were true adventurers, but once they were on a mission, they would become the blood-robed guards. Their identities were unclear, so no matter how overboard they were, the Sword Dao Sacred Ground could not do anything about it. Yi Qinghan looked around and walked into the city silently. He noticed that there were many blood-robed guards in the city. Most of them were of the Realm Lord level. 30% of them were in the lower level, 10% were in the middle level, and roughly 50 were in the upper level. They spread out around the Kuang Manor and did not attack the Kuang Manor. Outside the city, in an elegant valley, the Cloud Dragon Saint sat cross-legged on the ground. Her hair fluttered in the wind as she studied the Tao of heaven and earth. It was at this moment, an upper-level scout walked over respectfully, knelt on the ground and said, "Manor Lord, Yi Qinghan has returned. Follow the original plan. Force Yi Qinghan to attack, then beat him until the person behind Yi Qinghan comes out. I would like to see who is behind him. The Cloud Dragon Saint said coldly. Yes, Saint. The scout bowed and left. As soon as the scout entered the city, the news was quickly passed to the experts and the atmosphere in the city changed. Chapter 2037. Yi Qinghan did not know how many Blood Strike Guards were carrying out their missions in the city. Seeing that they were all up to no good, he did not start a massacre. Instead, he quickly made his way to Quang Manor, avoiding the Blood Strike Guards. When Yi Qinghan entered Quang Manor, he found that the group of people from Quang sect were very angry. They were trying their best to restrain themselves. When they saw Yi Qinghan return, they all surrounded him. Boss, you're finally back. We couldn't hold it in any longer, Jiang Jingtian said angrily. We have to hold it in even if we can't. There are not only Blood Strike Guards outside the city, but also a saint. I think Xia Zhilong will be here soon. We won't gain anything by attacking, Yi Qinghan explained in a deep voice. Sigh. These bastards are getting more and more out of hand. They often find excuses to kill people in the city. Now, the people in the city are panicking. Many people have escaped from Quang Manor. I heard that Fire Beacon City was also provoked. The Alchemist Association had no choice but to move. Now, 50% of the merchants in Fire Beacon City have left. If this continues, I'm afraid Fire Beacon City and us will be destroyed, Gu Qingyu said unwillingly as he held his sword. Yi Qinghan looked at his brothers and sisters who were filled with righteous indignation. He moved his fingertips slightly and said with a smile, Don't worry. I told you to hold it in, but I didn't say that I would. Even if I kill all the Blood Strike Guards today, the saints outside the city can't do anything to me. Everyone was shocked. They were afraid that Yi Qinghan would fly into a rage out of humiliation and talk back to the Eternal Saint. They all tried to persuade him, hold it in for a while. Boss, don't be rash. We don't have an Eternal Saint to fight against. Yi Qinghan patted his chest and said confidently, Don't worry, anyone can try to kill me, but a Sage Realm expert won't. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan's mysterious appearance and still felt uneasy. However, Yi Qinghan did not explain any further. Instead, he directly entered his own courtyard. When he opened the door, he found that Jian Chenxue and Lin Wutian were both in closed-door cultivation. For the past 1,000 years, the two of them had never left this courtyard. They had been cultivating day and night, and had been nurtured by Green Lotus Sword Immortal alone. Their cultivation had progressed by leaps and bounds. 90% of the Crazy Sect's resources had been used up by the two of them. However, they did not disappoint the people of the Crazy Sect. Lin Wutian had used 1,000 years to reach the complete middle level, while Jian Chenxue had almost reached the upper level. At this moment, the two of them were trying to break through to the upper level. They were surrounded by barriers with flowing light and surging lightning. Their perception of the outside world had long been blocked. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was sitting in the pavilion, fiddling with the bamboo flute in his hands. Upon seeing Yi Qinghan return, he did not even raise his head as he said indifferently, You're back. Did you gain anything? Have you found the location of the other half of the Green Lotus Core? Yi Qinghan shrugged and replied in a low voice, There are some gains, but I haven't found the other half of the Lotus Core. Back then, the Green Lotus Core had been divided into two parts. One part was scattered outside and was accidentally retrieved. However, the other part was still in the hands of the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire. As for where it was now, there was no way to find it. Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked as usual, as if he was not angry at all. He just waved his hand and said, Since there are no gains, hurry up and leave. Don't stay in the courtyard and disturb my rest. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. This was clearly his courtyard, but Green Lotus Sword Immortal had turned the tables on him. Yi Qinghan helplessly said, "Fairy Green Lotus, I came back this time to clean up the trash outside. Once I'm done, I'll help you find the Green Lotus core." Green Lotus Sword Immortal shook his head and said in a crisp voice, "Let them be. Don't do anything. There is an eternal saint outside who has been wandering around for hundreds of years. He tried to enter Kuang Manor several times but was repelled by me with a special method. They don't dare to act recklessly without knowing my identity. If you do anything to them, they will definitely beat you with a thunderous force and abuse you to force me to take action. My identity cannot be exposed, so you should endure it." Yi Qinghan grinned evilly. "Green Lotus, don't worry. As long as you don't come out, I will be safe. The Eternal Saint won't dare to attack me. As for those trash, so what if they are at the upper level? I can stand outside and let them beat me up. They can't kill me." With that, Yi Qinghan's divine power surged. Divine light shone in all directions and the yin-yang Taoist robe appeared in his hand. The yin and yang 8 trigrams appeared in his hands. However, Green Lotus Sword Immortal had set up an enchantment so that outsiders could not see anything. Green Lotus Sword Immortal raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "The yin and yang 8 trigrams robe? The Grandmaster Grand Sage helped you refine this Taoist robe? What did you do for him to help you so much?" Yi Qinghan laughed. "You don't have to worry. I'm now a true disciple of the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. This isn't the only thing I have. However, this robe alone is enough to prove that I represent the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. Whoever dares to attack me is equivalent to attacking the Grandmaster Grand Sage. Would the saints of the Holy Empire dare to attack the Grandmaster Grand Sage?" Green Lotus Sword Immortal looked at Yi Qinghan silently. He felt that this matter was not so simple. As a Grandmaster Grand Sage, why would he treat Yi Qinghan so well if he did not use him? "What else did he give you?" Green Lotus Sword Immortal asked after a moment of silence. Yi Qinghan happily took out the berserker and transformed it into the Eternal Glove. He stood in the courtyard, his aura soaring. "Indeed, with this set of equipment, not many saints can kill you," Green Lotus Sword Immortal said in a low voice, "but I am very curious. Why is the Grandmaster Grand Sage so good to you? Are you his illegitimate son?" Yi Qinghan was speechless. He scolded, "My background is simple. Don't you know? Don't talk nonsense. You said it yourself. Your background is simple. Can you tell me why the Grandmaster Grand Sage made 3 sets of eternal divine weapons for you? Especially that saber. There are 9 seals on it. Once all of them are opened, it will become a true eternal divine weapon and can awaken on its own. Even an eternal saint may not be able to defeat this saber. The 9th seal contains the Grandmaster Grand Sage's most powerful attack. In my current state, I can tell you with certainty that I cannot withstand it." Green Lotus Sword Immortal slowly stood up. His divine chi swirled around him and the mysteries of the Green Lotus circled around him. His temperament was transcendent. His eyes were like stars as he looked down at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He did not know what Green Lotus Sword Immortal was trying to say, but he did not believe that someone as transcendent as the Grandmaster Grand Sage would use him. He explained, "Green Lotus, these materials were all provided by me. There is still more than half left. He saw my talent and accepted me as his disciple. He used the materials I gave him to make something good for me as a gift. There is nothing strange about that, right? Moreover, I am very popular. Just like you, the most powerful person in the world, aren't you also very nice to me? I am also using you. I can't be bothered to explain it to you. Just be careful. Don't be betrayed and help others count their money." Green Lotus Sword Immortal impatiently waved her hand and said, "Since you have this set of equipment, then help me clear out all the small fries in the outside world. They're constantly trying to investigate this courtyard in the outside world, which makes me very annoyed." Yi Qinghan smiled sinisterly. He took off his Taoist robe and put away his berserk sword. He walked out of the crazed mansion with only a pair of boxing gloves. Chapter 2038. Yi Qinghan, dressed in black, had a devilish smile on his handsome face as he left the insane manor. He then sealed the gate and walked alone into the street. The streets were bustling with activity. The prosperity of the past was gone, leaving behind only desolation. Some adventurers kept a low profile and came from outside the city to resupply. They had no choice but to enter the city. After entering the city, they could only endure the provocations of the blood-robed guards. They quickly restocked on pills and items and left quickly. These blood-robed guards seemed to be looking for trouble. They would beat up and kill anyone they did not like. The Heaven Chant mansion was affected. In the past, there was always a lot of traffic in front of the mansion. Now it was rare to see a customer every 3 days. The mansion master was so angry that he had to seek help from the headquarters. Zhang Yingshi had been in the heaven-suppressing city branch for 3 days. Looking at the situation in the city, she was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, she was waiting for an opportunity. On this day, Zhang Yingshi was looking at the streets from the pavilion. Suddenly, a figure caught her attention. Zhang Yingshi frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan. She muttered to herself, "Just when others were worried about finding an excuse, you actually came out. Aren't you afraid of the sky falling and the earth shattering?" Yi Qinghan casually walked on the streets, looking left and right. Occasionally, there would be adventurers selling materials, but the grade was too low. Otherwise, the blood-robed guards would have already forcefully bought or robbed them. The blood-robed guards wanted to cut off the insane sect's escape route. Without resources, even the largest sect would be emptied out. At this moment, a few mid-level blood-robed guards walked over and took the initiative to crash into Yi Qinghan. Bang! One of the mid-level blood-robed guards wanted to crash into Yi Qinghan, but when he did, he felt as if he had crashed into an eternal sacred weapon. A piercing pain came from his bones and his soul was almost annihilated. "Ah!" The mid-level blood-robed guard screamed miserably with an exaggerated expression. The other mid-level blood-robed guards looked at the man's exaggerated expression and laughed. They thought that his acting skills were good, but they did not know that he could not even speak in his current state. "Why did you hit him? Do you want to die?" The rest of the middle-level experts surrounded Yi Qinghan and questioned him in a cold voice. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "I didn't hit anyone. Did you guys see wrongly? You didn't hit anyone? How did my brother become like this? F***ck, you don't know who I am, do you? How dare you quibble?" A burly man waved his hand and tried to grab Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan shrugged and gave him a slap. Slap! A crisp sound rang out in all directions. Yi Qinghan's giant hand was surrounded by lightning and contained terrifying mysteries. It ruthlessly slapped that person's face, directly punching through the stone floor and smashing him into the deep pit. Humph! After a weak groan, the mid-level blood-robed guard convulsed in the deep pit. He was badly mutilated and did not even have the strength to speak. His vitality quickly dissipated. "Look, I'm the one who hit someone. I really didn't hit anyone just now. You guys really misunderstood me," Yi Qinghan demonstrated innocently. The 7 or 8 people who surrounded him, except for the one who was smashed into the deep pit by Yi Qinghan, were all dumbfounded. They looked at the mid-level blood-robed guard in the deep pit in a daze. When they looked at Yi Qinghan again, they could not help but retreat. At this time, Zhang Yingshi, who was on the roof of the Heavenly Chant mansion, could not help but stand up with his mouth agape. He looked down at Yi Qinghan. "He's become so strong. This speed, this mystery. He actually crippled a mid-level blood-robed guard with just one slap," Zhang Yingshi exclaimed. On the street, after Yi Qinghan killed a mid-level blood-robed guard, he did not choose to endure. Instead, he looked at the others and said coldly, I'm such a low-key person, but you guys dare to blackmail me. I already said that I didn't hit him, but you didn't believe me. Now that I've proven my innocence, you don't apologize. Are you bullying me because I'm weak?" The mid-level blood-robed guards were so frightened that they retreated again and again. Zhang Yingshi covered his mouth and smiled faintly. He said to himself, "You're really used to bullying others. Now you want to bully these blood-robed guards. I'd like to see what kind of strength you have to fight against the Eternal Saint." Yi Qinghan was not going to let them go. He was already angry, and his killing intent soared. He waved his iron fists, and the yin and yang 8 trigrams affected the airflow, imprisoning the people around him in place. They did not even have a chance to escape. Boom! Bang bang bang! Yi Qinghan casually punched each of the mid-level blood-robed guards, sending them flying. They did not have any visible injuries, but their vitality was wiped out. Their corpses fell to the ground. They did not even have the chance to pull out their bodies before they were all dead. Yi Qinghan clapped his hands and said disdainfully, "Trash like these dare to bully people in the heaven-suppressing city? You guys are really looking down on the heaven-suppressing city." The street fell silent. Many of the blood-robed guards did not expect Yi Qinghan to kill so many mid-level blood-robed guards in one go. Yi Qinghan stared coldly and scanned the surroundings. He channeled his godly power and roared, "Who else? Stand out and let me see. You're courting death. In Xiao." A sword ray came from afar. The sword aura was so strong that even the earth annihilation was torn apart. Boom! Yi Qinghan drew the yin and yang 8 trigrams in front of him. He gathered the yin and yang energy in his fists and punched towards the opponent's divine sword. The two streams of fire clashed together. Boom! A shockwave blasted out in all directions, flattening the houses on both sides. One. Pung! The divine sword in the upper-level blood-robed guard's hand trembled violently and clashed with Yi Qinghan's fist. Instead of tearing through Yi Qinghan's defense, the divine sword was shattered. The upper-level blood-robed guard's fist smashed into the upper-level blood-robed guard's sword hand. Boom! Yi Qinghan's aura was like a rainbow. He twisted his waist and flipped his fist. His strength was multiplied by several folds. This was much more serious than the time when he casually punched Kuei Dao. Ka ka ka. Yi Qinghan was wearing an Eternal Saint-grade defensive glove. It could amplify his strength by 3 to 5 folds. How could the upper-level blood-robed guard's body withstand Yi Qinghan's punch? His defense was penetrated and his right arm was shattered. His body flew backward uncontrollably and screams filled the air. Die! Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground, shattering the ground and shaking the entire heaven-suppressing prefecture city. Then, he flew up into the sky and struck his knees and elbows at the upper-level blood-robed guard's chest and head. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan's elbows and knees struck the upper-level blood-robed guard's chest and head. The upper-level blood-robed guard's eyes shrunk and to his horror, he found himself unconscious. Then, his chest caved in and his head fell into darkness. Ka ka ka! Yi Qinghan rammed the upper-level blood-robed guard into a deep pit. Dust flew everywhere and the upper-level blood-robed guard died a horrible death. Not even his weapon survived. His defensive divine robe was torn apart and the order in his body was shattered. His body was stained with blood and the luster of his body dimmed. Yi Qinghan stood up from the corpse. His body was dyed red by the enemy's blood. The corner of his mouth curled up into a terrifying smile. He waved his hand and released the star-twisting vine and the multicolored snake. He said calmly, "I'll reward you. These are the corpses of upper and middle-level cultivators. Don't waste them." Zhang Yingshi's divine light shone in all directions and shrouded the entire heaven-chant hall, blocking the shockwaves from the battle. Looking down at Yi Qinghan killing an upper-level blood-robed guard, his eyes were filled with shock. Yi Qinghan's explosive power was too strong, especially when the upper-level blood-robed guard didn't know that Yi Qinghan had an Eternal Saint-grade defensive glove. His divine sword clashed with Yi Qinghan. How could he not die in vain? Chapter 2039. The upper-level cultivator died unjustly. One careless move and the entire game was lost. Only then did the blood-robed guards who were roaming around the area were shocked. Zhang Yingshi was also shocked. Killing an upper-level cultivator in 2 moves was not something she could do. Yi Qinghan stood up from the pit in his blood-red robe. His eyes were filled with disdain and a cold and domineering aura swept across the area. He was like a god of war who calmed the world, causing the surrounding aura to stagnate. Who else? A thunderous voice reverberated in the area, and even the wind stopped blowing. When the crowd saw Yi Qinghan's cold light sweep past them, they quickly dodged. Their eyes were filled with shock. Only a dozen or so upper-level cultivators clenched their fists and glared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan stepped out of the pit and stared at the blood-robed guards. He coldly said, "You dare to cause trouble in the heaven-suppressing city? Why don't you take a look at yourselves? The originally prosperous city has been turned into a mess because of you. Do you really think I can't get rid of trash like you? Hoo hoo hoo! Dong dong dong!" Breathing and heartbeat intertwined. The slightly weaker blood-robed guard's chest heaved up and down as they could not withstand Yi Qinghan's aura. "I don't care if you are blood-robed guards or black-robed guards. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation for causing trouble in my territory, don't even think about leaving the heaven-suppressing city alive." Yi Qinghan was extremely domineering. With a wave of his hand, he violently attacked. The saber aura tore through the void and blasted out in all directions, causing the upper-level blood-robed guard's hair to stand on end. "It's the Eternal Saint weapon!" More than a dozen upper-level cultivators blurted out at the same time. Their eyes were filled with fear as they took a few steps back. Zhang Yingshi's jade-like hands trembled. The way she looked at Yi Qinghan changed. This kind of wild and domineering nature was rarely seen in cultivators nowadays. Especially when facing the blood-robed guards of the Holy Empire, the true disciples could only turn a blind eye and choose to endure. What a barbaric man! Give him another 30 to 50,000 years and Xia Zhilong's elegance will be eclipsed. Boom! Yi Qinghan took a step towards the blood-robed guards and raised his saber to kill them. Each strike was merciless, and the street was dyed red with blood. The middle-level cultivators didn't even have a chance to retaliate. Yi Qinghan's control over his strength had already reached the level of great success, and there wasn't even the slightest aftershock. "Go! Let's kill him together!" Whoosh, roar! A top-notch expert pounced towards Yi Qinghan, his sword piercing through the clouds like a rainbow. Tens of thousands of sword shadows surrounded Yi Qinghan. Boom! Yi Qinghan sliced open the void with his saber. With a flick of his wrist, the saber radiance swept out in all directions and actually shattered the 10,000 sword shadows. The true body of the sword expert appeared in his field of vision. Just as he was about to attack Yi Qinghan, he was struck by the divine sword. The divine sword was split apart and tore through his defensive chi of divinity and divine clothes. His corporeal body was sliced in half. Hiss! This completely shocked the other upper-level cultivators. The experts who were just about to kill Yi Qinghan stopped one after another, and the swords in their hands began to tremble. "If you think you can contend with the eternal sacred artifact, just come and try. I'll show you the power of the eternal sacred artifact." Yi Qinghan roared angrily, shattering the momentum of hundreds of blood-robed guards. There was no way they could fight. 2 eternal sacred artifacts had appeared at once. Although they didn't have the auxiliary attack power of the eternal sacred artifact, how could the upper-level cultivators resist the enhancement power? Even if Yi Qinghan wasn't as good as Xia Zhilong, they were on par. In a one-on-one fight, the upper-level cultivators were no match for Yi Qinghan. However, they were now timid and didn't even have the will to fight, so they couldn't form an alliance. Otherwise, if he didn't have the yin-yang Taoist robe, he wouldn't be able to contend with more than 10 upper-level cultivators. Boom! When Yi Qinghan took a step forward, the blood-robed guards took a step back. At this moment, Zhang Yingshi flew over from the sky and landed in front of Yi Qinghan. He whispered in his ear, "Be careful not to summon the eternal sacred artifact. If that happens, you won't even have a chance to fight back." "I know. The Cloud Dragon Sage is just outside the city. He must be watching me. I don't believe that a sage like him would come to a small place like mine to bully juniors like us." Yi Qinghan sneered. "Why fight against such a huge monster? Just bear with it. Let them leave and everything will be fine." Zhang Yingshi sighed and said, "Why should we? They are the ones who should bear with it." Yi Qinghan replied strongly. Zhang Yingshi's face turned ugly. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so stubborn. In the sky, the clouds gathered and the Tao formed into the image of a sage. He sat cross-legged under the stars and looked down at the heaven-suppressing city. It was as if he could crush the entire city with a single slap. Such an existence was not something humans could fight against. "Young man, being strong is a good thing, but being arrogant is a bad thing. You stole the immortal materials of my holy empire, and you still dare to be arrogant here. Today I will personally take action. Return the immortal materials, kneel down and apologize, and I will spare your life." The image of the Cloud Dragon Sage was surrounded by holy dragons. His voice was like a bell that came from the wilderness, deafening. "Greetings, sage." The entire city knelt down, and even Zhang Yingshi didn't dare to blaspheme. Yi Qinghan, however, remained unmoved. He shrugged and said, "Sage, to catch a thief, you have to catch the thief first. Your immortal materials are hidden in your treasury. I am just a middle-level immortal. When did I enter the treasury? You are a sage. Don't accuse me in front of everyone." "Then where did you get the extreme godly metal?" The Cloud Dragon Sage looked down at Yi Qinghan and questioned him. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked, "Do you mean that all the immortal materials in the world belong to your Saint Empire? That's too overbearing. Let me ask you, where did the extreme godly metal come from?" The Cloud Dragon Sage asked again. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said, "I found it in a mine in the Sealed Heavens prison. However, all the treasures in the world belong to those who are fated. You have occupied the Sealed Heavens prison for so long and have yet to find it. This means that you are not fated. Furthermore, everyone knows that the Sealed Heavens prison was originally a sage's world. It does not belong to your Saint Empire. Therefore, my extreme godly metal does not belong to your Saint Empire. You are twisting words and forcing logic. How can I spare you today?" "Hua!" The Cloud Dragon Sage was burning with anger. The void distorted the sky and formed a huge hand that covered the sky. It descended from the sky and suppressed Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He activated the yin-yang Taoist robe, and the yin-yang 8 trigrams formation surrounded his golden body. He raised his head and roared, "I represent the Grandmaster Sage. Whoever dares to attack me will be blaspheming the Grandmaster Sage. Cloud Dragon Sage, do you dare to declare war on the Grandmaster Sage?" The Cloud Dragon Sage's giant hand stopped in midair, his expression extremely ugly. This was the Real Foundation. The yin-yang 8 trigrams robe was a symbol of identity. It represented the Grandmaster Sage. Just like the Saint Dragon robe of the Saint Empire, it represented the Emperor of the Saint Empire. It also represented the Saint Lord of the Saint Empire. Who would dare blaspheme it? Zhang Yingshi was completely convinced. A young kid actually had 3 eternal sacred weapons. Even Xia Jilong could not compare to him. The Cloud Dragon Sage stopped his attack. He could not bear the crime of blaspheming the Grandmaster Sage. If he dared to kill Yi Qinghan today, the Grandmaster of Heaven would dare to suppress him. Even the Saint Lord of the Saint Empire would not plead for him. Chapter 2040. The Cloud Dragon Saint stopped. He took a deep breath as he hid in the valley outside the city. His eyes flashed with coldness and fire, but he did not dare to act recklessly. Ho ho ho! The Cloud Dragon Saint heaved a few deep breaths and clenched his fists. He controlled the phantom in the sky to slowly retract his fists and stared at Yi Qinghan, who was like an ant in the city. There was nothing he could do. If Xia Zhilong was strong enough, he could kill Yi Qinghan, but not the Eternal Saint. Yi Qinghan, you are ruthless! The Cloud Dragon Saint whispered to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan sneered and did not reply. He stabbed his saber into the ground and said coldly, Cloud Dragon Saint, it's not that I don't respect you, but your subordinates have messed up my heaven-suppressing palace. If I let you go just like this, my reputation is not important, but what about the Grandmaster Great Sages? Then what do you want? The Cloud Dragon Saint's breathing was heavy, and he had no words to refute. I dare not argue with the Eternal Saint, but these so-called blood-robed guards will either die or compensate the heaven-suppressing palace for all its losses. 300 million strands of faith. Not a single cent less. Yi Qinghan said firmly. 300 million strands of faith was a huge sum even for a saint. The Cloud Dragon Saint almost fainted from anger. He was high and mighty, and this was the first time he was extorted by a junior. What he did today was destined to be mocked by the world. Yi Qinghan did not show any mercy after gaining the upper hand. He said calmly, if Senior can't take out so much money, you can just ignore these hundreds of trash and nurture them in the future. Leave these people to me and let me teach these trash a lesson so that no one dares to bully my heaven-suppressing city again. The Cloud Dragon Saint's breath stopped. Could he leave these people behind for Yi Qinghan to kill? Who would dare to work for the Saint Empire in the future? He had no choice but to choose the second option, which was to pay the 300 million strands of faith. Here is 150 million strands of faith. The remaining 150 million strands of faith will be given to you through the Sword Tao Great Eternal Sacred Ground. The Cloud Dragon Sage did not want to stay any longer. He waved his hand and left behind a storage ring. Then, he said coldly, the rest of you follow me. Yi Qinghan took the money and proudly shouted to the sky, Senior, remember to take Fire Beacon City's blood-clad guards with you. Otherwise, if I'm in a bad mood one day and kill your people over a small misunderstanding, I'll be too sorry. Humph! The Cloud Dragon Sage grunted. There was no need to bicker with Yi Qinghan now. The longer he stayed, the easier it was for him to leave behind a bigger scandal. Whoosh! The images above dispersed and the blood-robed guards quickly left. The heaven-suppressing prefecture city erupted in cheers and the citizens roared as they celebrated on the street. All these years, the heaven-suppressing prefecture city had been suppressed to the point of depression. Many people had chosen to leave, but those who chose to stay were those who had deep feelings for this place. Yi Qinghan looked at their excited faces, cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, "Thank you all for staying by my side. I will pay you back double for all the losses you've suffered over the years. If any family has died, please report it. One life will be worth 1 million strands of faith." "Thank you, City Lord Yi. Ha ha ha, we didn't misjudge you. Following City Lord Yi, our future will be better." Everyone knelt down and expressed their gratitude as they discussed excitedly. Yi Qinghan said shamefully, "There's no need for this. This happened because of me. I am deeply sorry for the deaths of my friends. Today, please rebuild the city. If you need any money, please report it to the Kuang Manor. Thank you for your trouble." Everyone dispersed, and the news quickly spread everywhere. After the adventurers who were still adventuring in the depths of the mountain range outside the city received the news, the collapsed houses were rebuilt a few days later, and the roads were paved again. The city was once again filled with vitality, and it was extraordinarily lively. Zhang Yingshi couldn't help but admire Yi Qinghan. It was as if there was nothing that could stop him. "Invite City Lord Yi over. Tell him that I invited him over for a drink. Also, inform everyone in the city that tomorrow night, the drinks here will be free. Let the heaven chant in become lively again." Zhang Yingshi sat in the hall and gestured to the twin sisters beside him. "Yes, sir." The two assistants bowed and left. They then personally went to the Kuang Manor to invite Yi Qinghan. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was sitting in the Kuang Manor's hall, checking the losses of the Kuang sect and the heaven-suppressing prefecture city's families and the adventurers who relied on this place to survive. It was estimated to be at least 80 million, if not 100 million. But with the Cloud Dragon Saint's compensation, the Kuang sect did not have to pay for it. Yi Qinghan sorted everything out and summoned Di Longtian and the other core members of the Kuang Manor. He had them take out the money and compensate the people in the city. As soon as he was done, the two beauties of the heaven chant respectfully walked into the Kuang Manor and were led to the hall by the butler. "Honorable City Lord, our master wishes to invite you over for a drink." The two beauties bowed and said. Yi Qinghan raised his head and looked at the two beauties. They were twins, and they looked exactly the same. Their figures were amazing, and their faces were also very beautiful. They would be top-notch no matter where they were placed. However, Yi Qinghan didn't fall in love with either of them. He nodded and said, "You two go back first. I'll be there shortly." "Yes, City Lord." The two beauties left respectfully without saying anything else. Yi Qinghan stood up and took out a storage ring. Inside the ring were many resources that the Cloud Dragon Saint gave as compensation. They were suitable for young experts. He categorized them and rearranged them before putting them into the storage ring. He then stood up and walked out of the hall to the back of the City Lord's manor. There was a beautiful and peaceful land behind the manor. Outsiders rarely entered this place, but the experts of the Kuang sect were all in closed-door cultivation here. The golden bloodlines Stan Wuxie, Xian Yinshu and Ye Tian, and the other experts had not come out for many years. They were all hiding here, cultivating day and night. Occasionally, they would enter the mountains to train, but they would return to this place very quickly. Lin Shui was here, as were Fa Zhen and the rest. It was very quiet here. Everyone had their own area and did not waste any time. Yi Qinghan entered the valley and handed over all the resources to everyone. He then passed on some of the less elite mental cultivation techniques from the celestial canon to everyone. However, he did not dare to expose them. After all, without the permission of the heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage, he would not dare to do anything. After settling everything, Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. "When are we going back to the 9 continents?" the divine bird asked impatiently. "After we meet Zhang Yingshi, we will leave." Yi Qinghan also wanted to go back and take a look at the 9 continents. After all, he had left for so many years. He had to go back and take a look. The divine bird was overjoyed. It seemed like it really wanted to go back and see the little miser and its child. However, it did not know that the egg had hatched and gave birth to an even more unreliable son. Chapter 2041. After leaving the valley, Yi Qinghan entered the main city and found Di Longtian. He handed over the control of this place to him and left him in charge of all matters, no matter how big or small. After giving him some special instructions, he entered the Heaven Ballad Inn. On this day, the Heaven Chant Inn's business was booming. When the customers saw Yi Qinghan, they all stood up and bowed to show their respect. Yi Qinghan kept a smile on his face and bowed to each and every one of them. He naturally hoped that the heaven-suppressing prefecture city would grow stronger and more people would come to join him so that he could establish his own strong sect. The twin sisters led Yi Qinghan upstairs and Zhang Yingshi was waiting in a private room on the top floor. An oil lamp and 2 candles lit up the room. The table was filled with delicacies and a few beauties stood respectfully at the side, each holding a musical instrument they were good at. Their faces were flushed red as they looked forward to Yi Qinghan's arrival. Yi Qinghan pushed the door open and entered. A fragrant aroma greeted him, and he couldn't help but smile at the scene. "Master Zhang, I'm at a loss for what to do with such a grand reception," Yi Qinghan said with a smile. "Dao friend Yi is no longer the same as before. You are no longer the newbie we first met. How can I not recognize Mount Tai?" Zhang Yingshi stood up and welcomed Yi Qinghan. Her voluptuous figure was graceful and alluring. Who wouldn't drool at the sight of her in this prosperous era? Yi Qinghan smiled and waved his hand. "You all can leave now. I will get straight to the point with the headmaster. I still have matters to attend to." Zhang Yingshi nodded and said, "Since City Lord Yi doesn't like to be served, you all can leave now. I will personally serve you." The maidservants blushed and looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly before they left the room reluctantly. In the room, there were only 2 people left. The room was filled with a unique scent and the 2 of them sat across each other, staring at each other. "Sect Master Yi, when will we depart for Pan Long Mountain?" Zhang Yingshi went straight to the point. Yi Qinghan frowned and pondered for a moment before replying. "The soonest would be 3 years later. I need to make a trip back to the 9 prefectures, and a round trip would take 3 years. After I return, I will go to Mount Panlong." Zhang Yingshi asked joyfully, "When the time comes, come with me. I'm willing to lend you a hand." Yi Qinghan shook his head without hesitation. "I'm not going alone. The Son of Battle is joining forces with me to explore the Coiling Dragon Mountain. We might be able to enter the Coiling Dragon mystic realm. He and I agreed that it would be just the 2 of us." Zhang Yingshi frowned and said unwillingly, "My strength is at least in the upper level. My combat strength is definitely not something that you so-called legendary creatures can compare to." "Do you think I'll drag you down?" Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. "That's not it. I naturally understand Dojo Master Zhang's strength. Your goal is not small. Since you want the eternal immortal pill, you naturally want to become a saint. Without some strength, who would dare to have such delusions? However, I promised the Son of Battle that I wouldn't bring anyone. If you really want to go, you can ask him. If he agrees, I have no objections. With a beauty as his companion, the journey won't be boring. In that case, I'll thank you in advance. I'll personally ask the Son of Battle," Zhang Yingshi said indifferently. Yi Qinghan stood up and cupped his fist. "If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first." Zhang Yingshi looked at Yi Qinghan angrily and reprimanded coldly, "Don't you have time to accompany me for a meal? I personally prepared this meal for you. Are you afraid that I'll poison you to death?" Yi Qinghan looked at Zhang Yingshi's angry expression and found it interesting. In order not to offend this woman, he could only stay and enjoy this delicious meal. That night, in a valley in the holy land of Xishiang, starlight lingered around the mountains and rivers. Xia Jilong stood respectfully behind the Cloud Dragon Sage. Feeling the Cloud Dragon Sage's anger, he felt uneasy. "This old man has never been so humiliated in my entire life. This time, because of your mistake, I was humiliated by an ant in front of everyone. Yet, I couldn't kill him. Do you know how angry I am?" Cloud Dragon Sage asked coldly. Xia Jilong bowed and said, "Martial uncle, I was wrong this time. I'll definitely make up for it and help you vent your anger." The Cloud Dragon Sage asked coldly, "He has 2 eternal sacred artifacts and a Yin-Yang Bagua Taoist robe. How are you going to kill him?" Xia Jilong recalled the battle that day and couldn't help but clench his fists. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "This time, I'll use the 10 great divine generals and invite 3 true disciples from other holy lands to attack. Xian Xiu will follow behind. I swear I won't leave until I kill Yi Qinghan. Martial uncle, please don't worry. I'll definitely help you vent your anger." Whoosh! The Cloud Dragon Sage was a sage, but he couldn't tolerate what happened a few days ago. His calm Tao heart was actually fluctuating because of Yi Qinghan. I've already investigated. Yi Qinghan came from a small domain, now called the Nine States continent. The entrance is at the border of the Blessed Buddha Temple. I want Yi Qinghan to pay the price. Destroy the small domain of the Nine States for me first, then kill Yi Qinghan. The Cloud Dragon Sage flicked his sleeves and snorted, "If you can't do it, your position as Crown Prince will come to an end." Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed with coldness. He bowed and cupped his fists, saying, "Martial uncle, please don't worry. As for the Patriarch, please put in a good word for me when he comes out of seclusion. Go. If you can't kill him with so many experts, don't come back." The Cloud Dragon Sage flicked his sleeves and left, leaving Xia Zhilong alone by the lake. Xia Zhilong clenched his fists with killing intent. His eyes were filled with hatred, making people shudder. After so many years, this is the first time I've been humiliated like this. Other than the Patriarch, who dares to speak to me like this? Xia Zhilong exhaled and crushed a nearby rock. With a surge of will, the entire lake was split into two. Yi Qinghan, this is all thanks to you. Xia Zhilong was burning with anger. His black hair and dragon robe fluttered, causing half the mountains and rivers to tremble. Whoosh! Xia Zhilong flashed and disappeared into the mountains. Yi Qinghan was eating with Zhang Yingshi when he suddenly felt a chill in his heart. His spine went numb, and he felt his hair stand on end. What's going on? Yi Qinghan's fingertips trembled. His eyes showed a trace of horror. He hadn't felt this for many years. When this feeling appeared, it was definitely not a good thing. Zhang Yingshi looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise and asked in a crisp voice, "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I have an inexplicable feeling that something bad is going to happen." Yi Qinghan suppressed his horror and calmly replied. The meal was almost finished. Yi Qinghan stood up and said, "Thank you for your hospitality, Master Zhang. I'll return to the Nine States first. If there's anything, wait until I return." Zhang Yingshi didn't stay any longer. He watched Yi Qinghan leave. Looking at his back, a strange emotion flashed in his eyes. Chapter 2042. Yi Qinghan, dressed in black, kept a low profile and left the heaven-suppressing prefecture city under the cover of the night. Other than Di Longtian and Zhang Yingshi, no one else knew that he went to the small region. The entrance to the 9 continents was located at the western border of the Blessed Buddha Temple. One had to cross the entire Blessed Buddha Temple to enter the desolate region. The Blessed Buddha Temple was a hostile force, so Yi Qinghan didn't dare to relax. He could only travel on foot. After a few months, his face was covered in stubble, making him look even more rugged. He originally looked 27 or 28 years old, but now he looked like a 30-year-old middle-aged man. Half a year later, Yi Qinghan appeared in the Blessed Buddha Temple's Spirit Light City. He often saw Buddhist monks walking in and out of the city. They walked in the heaven and earth, teaching people to be kind and making them suffer. But in reality, they were robbing the people of their wealth and resources. Yi Qinghan passed through the city and he did not stop. Instead, he went straight to the west. A year later, Yi Qinghan looked like he had experienced the vicissitudes of life. It was as if he had traveled through thousands of mountains and rivers and experienced countless hardship. Along the way, he had seen the wonders of the world, experienced the joys and sorrows of the world, and comprehended the Tao. Perhaps this 1 year of cultivation was more effective than 3 to 5 years of seclusion. Even an Iron Man needed rest, not to mention Yi Qinghan. One day, he came to a valley and looked up at the stars and moon. He breathed in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and his mortal body and soul improved tremendously. Yi Qinghan stepped into the valley and entered a plain surrounded by mountains. The stars and moon shone brightly, and the howling of wolves and beasts could be heard everywhere. Yet, the valley was lit up with fire, and many camps were set up. Some were merchants, some were adventurers, and some were mercenaries. As soon as they saw Yi Qinghan, they drew their swords and raised their guards. Yi Qinghan wasn't prepared to start a conflict with them. Instead, he went deep into the mountains and caught a few wild beasts that hadn't gained sentience. Then, he returned to the plains and found a small river. He cleaned the wild beasts' fur and internal organs. After washing them, he chose a small slope and sat down. Then, he broke a few branches and set up a barbecue rack. Yi Qinghan lightly snapped his fingers and a ball of fire appeared in his palm. He was a fire elemental expert, and his control over temperature was perfect. Not long later, a rich aroma filled the air. Yi Qinghan leaned against a small mound and crossed his legs. He grabbed a piece of thigh meat and slowly gnawed on it, enjoying the joy of leisure. He relaxed his soul to the extreme, allowing his soul to relax and relax in order to welcome greater breakthroughs. The star vine's food. Of the star vines, its appetite was after all. Yes, star vine was a beast. After all, the star vines. It's the appetite. Beasts the star vines. It. Meat id. Yi Qinghan was surrounded by a few spirit pets. The god-devouring eagle transformed into its original form and crouched beside Yi Qinghan. It swallowed a wild beast in a few mouthfuls, angering the other spirit pets. Both sides were at daggers drawn. Yi Qinghan took it as a joke and treated these spiritual pets as his family. They had followed him since he was a child, and almost every one of them had saved his life. No matter if they were strong now or if they could be of use in the future, he could not bear to throw them away. If you want to eat, can't you go and catch some wild beasts? Don't tell me you need boss to do it himself? The divine bird couldn't help but scold them angrily when it saw their gazes. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "If you want to eat, then go ahead. We won't be traveling tonight, so we'll rest for the day." As soon as his voice fell, all the spirit pets around him ran away in a split second. They went straight to the mountains and fields in all directions. The divine bird wasn't willing to do such rough work. Instead, it stood beside Yi Qinghan and imitated him by crossing its legs. It even held a strand of wild grass in its mouth. It was even more stylish than Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan glanced at the divine bird from the corner of his eyes. Looking at its posture, he couldn't help but laugh foolishly. A moment later, Yi Qinghan suddenly sat up and looked at the sky that instantly darkened. The god-devouring eagle spread its wings and covered the sky. Its claws were holding a huge ferocious beast that was estimated to weigh a few thousand kilograms. Upon closer inspection, it was actually an earth-shattering bear. This thing had boundless strength and was almost invincible in the same realm on Earth. Damn, you're really a glutton. Such a huge earth-shattering bear. Do you want me to roast it until tomorrow? Yi Qinghan asked speechlessly. Boom! The god-devouring eagle threw the earth-shattering bear to the ground. The earth-shattering bear was already on the verge of death. Its body was full of scratches and its legs were broken. The earth-shattering bear, with its coarse skin and thick flesh, was lifted up by the god-devouring eagle and thrown down from the sky. It had been thrown down at least 7 or 8 times. If it was still alive, it could only be said that its defense was perverse enough. Looking at the struggling earth-shattering bear, Yi Qinghan covered his forehead. He was completely speechless towards the god-devouring eagle. At this moment, the group of merchants, adventurers, and mercenaries in the plains looked at Yi Qinghan and his spirit pets as if they were fools. Yi Qinghan directly killed the earth-shattering bear and used heavy berserk to tear off the earth-shattering bear's fur. He placed the fur to the side and didn't even bother cleaning the internal organs. He directly used the fire origin to burn the earth-shattering bear, turning it into a fragrant barbecue. Hurry up and eat. After eating, we'll walk. Yi Qinghan couldn't stand the strange gazes of others and said speechlessly. A few divine pets pounced on the earth-shattering bear together. In just 5 minutes, only a skeleton was left of the earth-shattering bear. Yi Qinghan quickly recalled his divine pets and left the region with a few flashes. He increased his speed and traveled 1,000 miles in a flash. After Yi Qinghan left, the adventurers in the valley who had been paying attention to him rushed over and snatched the earth-shattering bear's fur. It was priceless and could be used as a defensive soft armor for a lower realm expert. It was something that couldn't be bought with money. Yi Qinghan used shadowless maneuvering cloud and traversed through a few big cities. 1 year later, he appeared outside the great Buddha city. This was the place where the famous battle took place. Looking at the great Buddha city, Yi Qinghan suddenly felt that things were still the same but people had changed. Back then, he was only a sector lord. Now, he had already stepped into the intermediate realm. There were many familiar faces in the great Buddha city, so Yi Qinghan didn't dare to stay for too long. After spending a night in the city, he left the city early the next morning. He passed by the Yang family village, where the divine pellet pavilion was established. Yi Qinghan wandered around the village for a while, and when he found that the divine pellet pavilion was still operating, he couldn't help but smile. Without disturbing the people of the Yang family village, Yi Qinghan left and went straight to his next target, the Spirit Lady sect. Back then, he was saved by a little disciple of the Spirit Lady sect, by Yuran. Then, he was betrayed by one of her elders, Old Liang. Some things had to be resolved eventually. The Spirit Lady sect wasn't far from the Absolute Realm. With Yi Qinghan's speed, it would take him at most a few days to reach the Absolute Realm. Yi Qinghan kept increasing his speed and traversed through a few small cities in a night. Finally, he entered the territory of the Spirit Lady sect at dawn. The territory of the Spirit Lady sect wasn't big. With shadowless maneuvering cloud, he appeared at the foot of the mountain in 5 incense sticks of time. Yi Qinghan stood at the foot of the mountain and looked at the deserted mountain gate. There were only a few disciples standing guard at the mountain gate. He walked towards the Spirit Lady sect. Chapter 2043. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, "I'm here to visit your sect master and Old Liang. Please pass on the message." "You are?" the disciple guarding the door asked curiously. Fortunately, he did not mock Yi Qinghan for being ignorant. How could the sect master be met just because he said so? "I'm Old Liang's old friend. My surname is Yi. Tell him that he will come out to meet me," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Old Liang was not a member of the Spirit Lady sect. He merely had an affair with the sect master of the Spirit Lady sect. Back then, when Bai Yuran and Yi Qinghan left together, it was Old Liang who helped the Spirit Lady sect avoid the calamity of destruction. Thus, all the disciples of the Spirit Lady sect knew of Old Liang. The disciple quickly entered the sect. Moments later, a white-haired old man walked out. It was Old Liang, who had not been seen for many years. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and stared at Old Liang. His cold smile made Old Liang's hair stand on end. "Old Liang, long time no see." "I'm back," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Old Liang did not know what Yi Qinghan wanted to do, but he could tell that Yi Qinghan's current strength was not something he could fight against. His expression changed. "I didn't expect your cultivation to improve so much." "I'm ashamed," Old Liang said with a bitter smile. Yi Qinghan sneered. "Of course you didn't expect it. Back then, you tricked me into the great Buddha city and I almost died there. Tell me, how should I deal with you?" Old Liang saw that Yi Qinghan did not look like he was joking. He was shocked and took a few steps back. He had too many worries now and was afraid of death. "I was forced to do this. Back then, I also wanted to save the lives of the entire Spirit Lady sect. Please forgive me, Lord." Old Liang's face was red as he explained in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan smiled evilly. It's for the life of your old lover, right? Old Liang, bring me to see your lover. Also, call Bai Yuan out. Elder Liang's expression changed again. He was a little sad and sighed. Master Yi, my condolences. That child Yuan has left. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and took control of the entire spirit maiden sect. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he asked coldly, "What do you mean by that? Left? Dead?" 1,000 years ago, she went out to train and was heavily injured. When she returned to the Spirit Maiden sect, I did everything I could to save her life. She wanted me to leave you a message. I'm sorry, I can't wait for you to return. Elder Liang said sorrowfully. Hoo. Yi Qinghan took a few deep breaths. He didn't expect that he would owe another emotional debt. Even at death's door, an innocent little girl's wish had not been fulfilled. Take me to her grave, Yi Qinghan said weakly, his voice hoarse and tired. Elder Liang turned and walked towards the back mountain of the Spirit Maiden sect. This was a large cemetery where the ancestors of the Spirit Maiden sect were buried. The disciples who sacrificed themselves for the sect were buried there. Bai Yuan's grave was very small and was located at the foot of a small mountain. There were some spiritual herbs growing on it and the surroundings were very clean. Yi Qinghan's divine sense entered the coffin and found that only a skeleton was left. A beautiful woman had a short life. After 1,000 years, she was still a skeleton. It was very pitiful. Yi Qinghan bowed deeply 3 times and then half knelt in front of the tombstone. He activated the Rui bell and softly chanted Buddhist scriptures to appease Bai Yuan's resentment. If fate allows, I hope you can reincarnate as a human. I will definitely nurture you well. Yi Qinghan said quietly. Elder Liang stood behind and didn't say anything. At this moment, he was very vigilant. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would be enraged and destroy the Spirit Maiden sect. After a long time, Yi Qinghan stood up. He felt very tired and sighed. Forget it, there's nothing to be calculative about. Elder Liang, seeing how you took care of her, I'll spare you this time. If you dare to betray me again, you won't have another chance. Elder Liang quickly bowed and thanked him. At this moment, he was really afraid of death. Yi Qinghan casually threw out a storage ring and said indifferently, "This is for you. It's enough for you to enter the Middle Realm and protect the Spirit Maiden sect for Bai Yuan." Whoosh! With that, without waiting for Elder Liang to thank him, his figure flashed and he left the Spirit Maiden sect's territory. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan appeared in the Land of Despair. The Land of Despair was chaotic, and there were all kinds of people. Those who dared to enter this place weren't good people. They were all evil tyrants and weren't afraid of anything. Yi Qinghan also became rough at this moment. His domineering aura was restrained. He wore a pair of gloves and silently walked towards the depths of the Land of Despair. He tried his best to avoid conflicts with these evil people. He only wanted to quickly enter the 9 continents. Along the way, he saw experts fighting everywhere. For resources, they didn't even care about their lives. There were groups everywhere. As the saying goes, people die for wealth and birds die for food. Not long after Yi Qinghan entered the Land of Despair, he was targeted by some evil tyrants. However, very few people saw through his cultivation. They thought that he was also an ordinary sector lord and brought a group to kill him. In the end, before they could even say a word, they were suppressed by Yi Qinghan with a slap. When he reached the depths of the Land of Despair, he discovered an exceptionally fierce battle. It was actually a group of people ganging up on a one-armed man. Yi Qinghan suddenly raised his eyebrows. He felt that this person was somewhat familiar. He focused his gaze and saw that it was actually Lin Jun, the middle-aged man who protected Lin Shui and escaped. Yi Qinghan stepped into the circle and sent dozens of sector lords flying with a slap. He coldly said, "Scram." This group of people bullied the weak and feared the strong. They didn't even dare to say anything and turned to run. Lin Jun looked at Yi Qinghan and almost didn't recognize him. Yi Qinghan's face was covered with a beard. He didn't have the heroic spirit of the past. "You are Taoist Yi?" Lin Jun asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan nodded and replied, "And yes. Follow me." "Taoist Yi, where is my little princess?" Lin Jun hurriedly asked. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Taoist Lin, you are indeed loyal. You are already in such a state and yet you still can't forget about Master. But don't worry, Lin Shui is now in the heaven-suppressing prefecture city with the insane sect. I will return to the 9 continents first. When I am done, I will bring you to see her." Lin Jun's face was filled with joy as he bowed and thanked Zhong Yu. Yi Qinghan walked in front and asked casually, "In your great Luo star realm, is there anyone who can step on the stars and form the 9 stars alignment?" Lin Jun frowned and thought for a long time. He then shook his head and said, "I don't know. Such a unique body type should be hidden very well. Ordinary people are not qualified to know about it. I am just a guard of the Lin clan. Even if the Lin clan treats me as their own, there should still be a difference between master and servant. The old master wouldn't tell me everything." "Then, are there any royal princes in your great Luo star realm who survived?" Yi Qinghan continued asking. Unfortunately, Lin Jun still had no answers. Regarding the person who stepped on the stars in the heaven-suppressing prison, Zhong Yu still couldn't find out anything. Yi Qinghan stopped asking and came to the entrance of the 9 continent. This was where the boundary tower was located back then. With a wave of his hand, he fused with the barrier and the entrance had no effect on him. As soon as he entered the 9 continents, the heavenly Tao of the small domain rumbled. Yi Qinghan became the supreme existence in this small domain. The heavenly Tao of this small domain benefited greatly and evolved continuously. The sounds of nature rumbled continuously. Hua! Yi Qinghan stepped into the holy city of the 9 state. Looking at the flourishing city, a carefree smile appeared on his face. Chapter 2044. The land of 9 prefectures was perhaps the greatest land of the human race. There were no large-scale wars here, only small fights between small clans. Once a big clan had a conflict, they would go to the imperial city for mediation. There would always be a way to balance the situation. Even if the situation did not work out well, they would still give some face to the imperial city. With the unification of 9 prefectures, the population had reached its maximum. The heavenly Tao was merciful, and the great Tao was strengthened several times. Everyone's cultivation had also increased a lot. The peak combat power was no longer the Sector Lord realm, and it was not limited to 9 Sector Lords. Now, Sector Lords were not everywhere, but the real big clans would have Sector Lords. However, in the entire land of 9 prefectures, only the imperial city had a lower realm expert. However, there was only one, and that was Desolate Lord Yi. It had been more than 10,000 years since Yi Qinghan left 9 prefectures. The insane sect here had developed rapidly, and there was a special organization in 9 prefectures that specialized in hunting the best geniuses to cultivate. However, to be able to join the insane sect, it was not only about talent, but also about willpower and character. The most important thing was character. Before Yi Qinghan left, he had left behind an illusory matrix, which was used by Desolate Lord Yi to test the disciples of the insane sect. This was a tough test. If one wanted to join the insane sect, they had to pass the illusory matrix. Now, the insane sect had more than 3,000 inner disciples, more than 10 true disciples, and more than 1,000,000 outer disciples. Even an outer disciple had a very high status in 9 prefectures, comparable to the deacons of a big clan. Yi Qinghan walked through the mountains and rivers, crossing 3 prefectures. He did not find any conflicts between forces, and there were almost no refugees. He could not help but nod, acknowledging Desolate Lord Ye's rule. As soon as he entered the imperial city, the prosperity of 9 prefectures came into view. It was accessible in all directions, and there was an endless stream of horses and carriages. There were heroes everywhere, and it was impossible for there to be no playboys. However, it was not too much. Most of them were fighting among themselves, and they would not vent their anger on the weak. Yi Qinghan's face was full of whiskers, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He had experienced many vicissitudes of life, and the gratification in his eyes was self-evident. His years of hard work had not been in vain. He had sacrificed too many heroes for this continent, and his achievements today were not in vain. Tisk, tsk, the young desolate lord is quite capable. He has the ability to govern a country. The divine bird ran to Yi Qinghan's shoulder and clicked its tongue in wonder. You have my style. Yi Qinghan's aura expanded outwards, attracting the attention of the surrounding experts. However, no one recognized his identity, but they could tell that he was powerful. Yi Qinghan had a smile on his face as he stepped into the inner city. There weren't many guards, but all of them were extremely powerful. They were all fake world overlords, and the officers were all at the world overlord realm. They were clearly unable to block Yi Qinghan's path. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan seemed to be moving slowly, but when those fake world overlord guards saw him appear at the inner city gates, before they could even stop him, he had already entered the inner city. He continued to teleport, leaving no afterimages behind. He was extremely fast. Stop. The inner city is a restricted area, no one is to be summoned, and no one is to enter or leave at will. With an angry bellow, more than 10 guards reacted quickly. They all rushed towards Yi Qinghan and drew their swords to stop him from moving forward. However, they missed as Yi Qinghan had already taken another 10 steps forward. Pounce again. He still missed. Woo! A majestic horn reverberated throughout the city, shocking the entire inner city. Hua hua hua! Xiao xiao xiao! In a short few breaths of time, hundreds of world overlords rushed out. They were all grade 6 and above, and were all consecrators of the imperial city. Their defenses were extremely strong. Halt, this is a restricted area. If you continue, don't blame me for being impolite. A powerful world overlord pinnacle old man appeared in front of Yi Qinghan and warned. Yi Qinghan had a smile on his face. He only wanted to test the guards, but he was very satisfied with the speed of their defense. At this moment, Desolate Lord Yi personally appeared. He was wearing a dragon robe and looked extremely majestic. Desolate Lord Yi looked at Yi Qinghan and almost didn't recognize him. After all, he had not cared about his appearance for more than a year. His heroic spirit from back then had become boorish and heroic. However, the divine bird on Yi Qinghan's shoulder was unique. You are father? Desolate Lord Yi shouted in shock. Following which, he shouted with certainty, Your child Desolate Lord Yi greets father. What? He is the divine ancestor? All the guards looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. They were so excited that their bodies were trembling. Yi Qinghan nodded and revealed his identity. Hua! The entire inner city knelt down and shouted, Greetings, divine ancestor! Divine ancestor, the first-generation ancestor of the sect. Yi Qinghan was not only the founder of the insane sect, but also the founder of the 9 states. In terms of age, he was the oldest person in the 9 states. He was worthy of everyone's respect and the title of divine ancestor. Yi Qinghan looked at the several hundred experts kneeling on the ground and trembling with excitement. He could imagine their feelings. He waved his hand and lifted everyone up like a benevolent old man. With a tired and hoarse voice, he said, Everyone, get up. I'm very gratified to have returned this time. You didn't disappoint me, and Desolate Lord Yi didn't disappoint me either. The world is at peace, and there are very few killings. It wasn't in vain that I and my brothers and sisters worked so hard to achieve peace. Thank you, divine ancestor. all the sector lords and fake sector lords said excitedly. Today, in the entire 9 states, all the sects, clans, small clans and private schools studied history first. History contained the heroic deeds of Yi Qinghan from his birth to conquering the 9 states and unifying the world. Many people in the insane sect wrote stories about him. History didn't forget the meritorious subjects. As long as one studied history, there was no one who didn't look forward to joining the insane sect. There was no one who didn't respect and love this divine ancestor who they had never seen before. Some people wanted to be the second Yan Ao. Some wanted to be the next Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu Di Longtian, great Emperor Fu Su. The people of the past were heroes, heroes that made people revere them. The name of the heavenly emperor of the past, even if the world overlords saw him now, they would all feel deep veneration. They wouldn't dare to blaspheme him in the slightest. This was a sincere belief. No one thought that great Emperor Fu Su was weak. He was only a great emperor when he died in battle. But who dared to say that they had defeated him? Who dared to say that they had surpassed great Emperor Pangolin? Many sector lords had tears in their eyes. At this moment, they didn't feel that crying was a shameful thing. They just wanted to kneel in front of Yi Qinghan and pour out their hearts. They were willing to follow him to death. Xiao, just as everyone was tearing up emotionally, a shadow flashed past. It was extremely small, but this speed could only be possessed by a sector lord. You are that shameless father of mine? You left us behind and followed that shameless master to wander around. You still have the face to come back? A discordant voice resounded in all directions, causing everyone's expression to change. Even desolate Lord Yi was speechless as he stared at the newcomer. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and grabbed the little divine bird in his hand. He stared at it with a terrifying aura and said in a muffled voice, "How dare you call me shameless? You are the first to call your own father shameless." The little divine bird was exactly the same as the divine bird. At this moment, Yi Qinghan seemed to have returned to the first time he saw the divine bird. His eyes were filled with warmth, but he pretended to be threatening as he stared at the little divine bird. The little divine bird had never seen such a dignified gaze before. It was so frightened that it almost peed in its pants. Its body trembled and it quickly said, "I'm really sorry. I drank too much and am still dreaming. Where am I? Great expert, who are you?" Chapter 2045. Looking at the little divine bird's despicable appearance, Yi Qinghan seemed to have returned to the past as he grinned happily. The divine bird looked at its son's unbearable appearance and flew into a rage out of humiliation. It jumped onto Yi Qinghan's shoulder and looked down at the little divine bird. It roared, "You bastard, who told you that I'm shameless? I worked hard for you and your son and almost lost my life. You actually dare to slander my honor. It's fine if you scold my boss, but you even dared to scold your own father. I really should have thrown you into the trash can." Yi Qinghan. At this moment, the little miser rushed out and used an even louder voice to retort, "You bastard, who do you want to throw into the trash can? I spent so much effort to hatch it, and I didn't even have the heart to scold it. You actually want to throw it into the trash can? I think I should throw you into the trash can too." The divine bird. After being yelled at by the little miser, the divine bird shrank its head and was speechless. It was originally a serious ancestral meeting, but now it was turned into a big joke by this family of 3. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and said, "You 3 buffoons find a quiet place to quarrel slowly. Just don't scold me." Although the divine bird scolded the little divine bird, how could it hide its many years of concern? After getting Yi Qinghan's permission, it hurriedly begged the little miser for mercy and asked to go to a quiet place. Even if it was scolded, it still had some face, right? The divine bird and the little miser took their family's treasures and left the place, leaving only Yi Qinghan to face the crowd. Yi Qinghan looked around, his face full of vicissitudes. Especially when he saw desolate Lord Yi, he was very gratified. He rubbed his head and said in a deep voice, "You didn't embarrass me." Desolate Lord Yi excitedly grinned. To be able to get a word of praise from Yi Qinghan, all his years of hard work were worth it. "Thank you for your praise, father." Desolate Lord Yi didn't forget to return the favor to his father and respectfully said, "This is all because of father's teachings, setting a good example for your son." Yi Qinghan nodded and said to the others, "You all go back to your duties. I will stay here for a few days and will find time to give you some pointers." "Thank you, divine ancestor. We will take our leave now." The several hundred experts bowed and left respectfully. Yi Qinghan led desolate Lord Yi into the main hall and ordered people to bring out a large number of jade bamboo slices. With a wave of his hand, all of the jade bamboo slices appeared with dazzling golden words that were overflowing with majesty. They were filled with the profundities of the laws and the profundities of the yin-yang 8 trigrams. Many kinds of secret sword techniques were mixed together. There were probably over 1,000 kinds of divine sword techniques. Every secret technique was top-notch. The weakest was a mid-level secret technique, while the strongest was the Taiji Immortal Codex. Yi Qinghan separated the contents of the Taiji Immortal Codex and specially instructed, "This is the content of the Taiji Immortal Codex. Non-direct disciples are not allowed to cultivate it. Even if they cultivate it, they are not allowed to use it. After knowing that I have given special permission, no direct disciples are allowed to enter the eternal world. Everyone is to wait for orders. As for the other secret techniques, reward them according to their merit." Desolate Lord Yi had never seen so many high-grade saint techniques. His eyes were wide open. "My son, you have yet to enter the eternal world. You don't know how dangerous it is. A small territory like ours may seem prosperous, but if the holy lands and powerful sects of the eternal world really want to attack us, we will have no chance to fight back. Do you understand?" Yi Qinghan reminded in a deep voice. "Your son understands. Your son will definitely teach the disciples of the insane sect that forgetting to fight will lead to danger. They must be prepared for a rainy day." Desolate Lord Yi replied respectfully. Yi Qinghan nodded and said with satisfaction, "It's good that you understand. Your cultivation is now at the lower level. Above it is the middle level, upper level, and then the eternal sage realm. Above that is the true invincible existence, the eternal sage realm. As far as I know, there are a total of 4 eternal sages. Although I have 2 eternal sages behind me, it is better to rely on oneself than on others. When the time comes, no one can be relied on. If you want to survive, you have to rely on yourself. I don't expect my insane sect to produce several eternal sages. At least 2 or 3 eternal sages. You have to work harder and not drag your cultivation down. Your son will not disappoint you," Desolate Lord Yi said firmly. Yi Qinghan smiled with satisfaction and patted Desolate Lord Ye's shoulder. "I'll leave the insane sect here to you to develop. When the time comes, they will have to go out and fight. Relying on your uncles alone is ultimately too weak. When the war is about to break out, I can't guarantee that I can protect this small territory, but I will unswervingly fight to the death with the 9 continents. Therefore, you have to stand behind your father and help me. Don't let your guard down." Desolate Lord Yi nodded repeatedly after receiving Yi Qinghan's approval. "Well, you go and do your work. Give the good profound saint techniques to the right people. I'll go and see your grandmother and other brothers and sisters." Yi Qinghan sighed. Desolate Lord Ye's expression suddenly changed. He quickly knelt and said, "Father, I forgot to tell you. Grandmother has already turned into the Tao. It has been almost 1,000 years. My 2 brothers, sisters, and aunt are all guarding father's tomb." Yi Qinghan's body trembled and he took several steps back. His eyes were filled with sorrow and reluctance. The tree wants to be still but the wind won't stop. The child wants to be raised but the parents are no longer around. This situation was the saddest. Yi Qinghan's eyes became misty. He felt ashamed to face this mother. She must have been most unwilling to not see him before she left. "Take me to see," Yi Qinghan said with a hoarse voice. Desolate Lord Ye's mood was downcast. He turned around and brought Yi Qinghan out of the imperial city. They went to a mountain range behind the godly dragon cauldron. There was a huge stone tablet with the words, "Sacred Ancestors' Tomb," written on it. The tomb was majestic and majestic. On the two sides of the tomb, there were several smaller palaces next to the godly dragon cauldron. Inside were void god Yi Qintian, Yi Yun'er, and Yi Mingxi. Yi Qinghan's aura leaked out, alarming the four experts. The four of them had not come out for a long time. The moment they appeared, two of them were lower-level experts. Yi Qintian, who called himself Great God Qintian, and Yi Mingxi, who had been hiding for countless years, were lower-level experts. "Father! Big brother!" The four cried out in unison and rushed over. Yi Mingxi, in particular, burst into tears. After all, her relationship with the Wang family was deeper than Yi Qinghan's relationship with the Wang family. Yi Qinghan was extremely sad. He reached out and hugged Yi Mingxi. He said softly, "All good things must come to an end. Mother is old and has someone to rely on. It's good that she did not leave in pain. But she was not happy when she left. Woo-woo. She kept saying that she wanted you to come back. But in the end, you did not come back. It's all your fault." Yi Mingxi pounded Yi Qinghan's chest with 30% of her strength. Yi Qinghan didn't say a word. He silently endured the guilt in his heart. He was a competent divine ancestor, but his son was very incompetent. Yi Qinghan came before the tomb and respectfully knelt down. He kowtowed 9 times and sorrowfully said, "Mother, since ancient times, it has been difficult to be both loyal and filial. I'm sorry for making you worry." Chapter 2046. Yi Qinghan knelt in front of the mausoleum for 3 days before he slowly stood up. Yi Mingxi, Yi Qintian, and the other 2 children stood beside him. They were in low spirits and did not say a word. "This is a sacred technique specially prepared for you. You must practice it hard, but you can't enter the outside world." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out a supreme secret technique from the Taiji Immortal Codex and sent it into their consciousness. "Thank you, father. Thank you, brother." The 4 of them looked gloomy and whispered. The Taiji Immortal Codex could not excite them. "I'm going to the boundless galaxy. Don't let them disturb me if there's nothing important." Yi Qinghan was expressionless. He stepped across the continent and entered the Great Barren State. Looking at the Great Barren Palace, which was still standing proudly, he felt extremely sad. The past was the past. No matter how strong he was now, he could not return to the past. Now there were countless buildings around the Great Barren Palace, but no one dared to touch it. It was treated like a sacred treasure. The flourishing Great Desolate State was at its peak. Experts were as common as clouds, and there were occasional battles, but they were limited to individual battles. The battles between experts did not involve inhumane killing. Wives and children would not be implicated, and there would not be battles that would result in the extermination of entire clans. Deaths and injuries were normal. It was the cycle of heaven and earth. No one could stop it. Yi Qinghan naturally would not stop it. Yi Qinghan crossed the Great Barren State and entered the Chaos State. This small region was completely devoured by him in the past. That was a true inhumane massacre. Back then, he might have been a demon, but now, wasn't he a saint? It was unfair to the dead, but there was no such thing as fairness in the world. After more than 10,000 years of development, the Chaos State was now covered in forests and thorns. There were also many spiritual herbs and ferocious creatures. Many people came here to train and admire the sacred ancestors' remains. Now there was only one major force in the entire chaos state. It was the ancient massacre god. The ancient massacre god was a respected organization. Now it was only second to the wild sect. Even the elders of the wild sect had to show respect to the ancient massacre god. Yi Qinghan entered the endless star system, the small star system that had given birth to him. He had an inexplicable feeling towards this place, and was even willing to use his life to protect it. With a sweep of his powerful divine sense, the ruins of the ancient Killing God organization appeared before his eyes. The ancient Killing God organization hadn't changed the ruins and had just rebuilt it. They had tried their best not to change anything and had maintained the original appearance. There were quite a few experts in the ancient massacre god sect, and a faintly discernible aura was about to break through to the lower level. It seemed that the land of sinners was filled with geniuses. Without powerful saint techniques, there were still people who could defy the heavens and reach the lower level. Yi Qinghan looked at the small star system that he was protecting and recalled the battles back then. Tears bloomed in his eyes as he reached out to touch the phantom. It was as if he was seeing Great Emperor Fu Su, Great Emperor Pangolin, and the other overlords who sacrificed themselves for the sake of billions of lives. Thank you. You all left, but I stayed behind. I'm sorry, but what you all protected was destroyed by me. Yi Qinghan shed tears of guilt. Sometimes, he simply could not control his emotions, especially when he saw this small star system. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped into the central land. This ancestral land was where the ancestors of the human race were buried, and where the heroes who died in battle were buried. It was protected by the strongest array formation of the human race. Ordinary people could only pay their respects to these ancestors outside. Only the most powerful existences could enter and pray for blessings. The enchantment was nothing to Yi Qinghan. He casually stepped into the enchantment. There were many tombstones, and the familiar names on the tombstones echoed clearly in his sea of consciousness. Great Emperor Fu Su, Great Emperor Pangolin, Great Emperor Di Shang. Back then, all of the Saint Lords of the Holy Land had died in that battle. Most of them had shown kindness to Yi Qinghan, and most of them were his seniors. At the very least, they were of the same generation. Boom! The imposing figure knelt down, causing dust to fly everywhere. It was unknown how many remnant wills there were in the ancestral land. They seemed to still have memories of Yi Qinghan. The moment Yi Qinghan knelt down, the ancestral land rumbled, and heaven and earth phenomena appeared. 9 heavens divine dragons coiled around, thunder rumbled, and the sound of nature surged, affecting the entire small star system. Who has awakened the slumbering heroes of the ancestral land? A furious roar shook the mountains and rivers. A pressure surged from the ancient killing gods, covering the ancestral land. A figure flashed and appeared outside the ancestral land. Looking at the radiance of the ancestral land and the divine dragons swimming around, he could not help but be shocked. Who in the world could awaken the slumbering remnant wills of the ancestral land? Whoosh! Shio shio shio. In an instant, several hundred figures rushed over. The vast majority of them were experts guarding the ancestral lands. There were also world overlords who stayed behind to guard the boundless star systems. They were all adventurers and all of them wanted to protect this ancestral land. The anger and shock in their eyes were evident. The white-haired expert from the ancient killing gods pulled out his sword and left. He activated his foundation and opened the enchantment. The scene inside the ancestral land could be seen clearly. A majestic figure knelt before the stone tablet of Wanxiong tomb and kowtowed repeatedly. His back seemed to be filled with the vicissitudes of time. A sorrowful aura radiated from him, causing the experts who rushed in to stop. A trace of doubt and shock appeared in the eyes of the old man from the ancient killing gods. He stared at Yi Qinghan's back. At a certain moment, he felt as though he had seen this existence before. This back view was so familiar. You are. The old man from the ancient killing gods trembled, and his eyes were filled with tears. All of you can leave. I wish to accompany them. Yi Qinghan spoke in a hoarse voice. The experts from the ancient killing gods glanced at each other in dismay. They didn't dare to ask and looked at the white-haired old man, hoping that he would make a decision. However, the white-haired old man waved his hand, indicating for everyone to leave. He opened the enchantment once more, leaving only Yi Qinghan behind. Outside the enchantment, everyone looked at the white-haired old man and began to ask questions. The white-haired old man was also confused. He wryly smiled and said, "I don't know who this exalted lord is, but I estimate that he is one of the sacred ancestors' friends. He might even be the sacred ancestor himself." What? They have returned? They left for 10,000 years and now they have returned. Everyone was ecstatic and excited. They wished that they could rush in and pay their respects to this existence that had once commanded the heavens and earth. All of you shut up. If you want to see him, then stay here. If you don't want to, then hurry up and leave. The white-haired old man's eyes were filled with excitement as he spoke. But who wanted to leave? Not only did they not leave, but they also sent messages to their sects and friends, telling them to come and see the sacred ancestor or his friends. Even if they could obtain a little bit of a lucky chance, it would be infinitely beneficial. Half a day later, the number of people in the ancestral land didn't decrease. Instead, it increased by several times. However, Yi Qinghan had stayed in the ancestral land for 3 days and still hadn't come out. There were at least tens of thousands of people gathered in the ancestral land. Although they were anxious, they were also filled with anticipation and excitement. On the morning of the 4th day, Yi Qinghan walked out from the ancestral land. He saw tens of thousands of people with varying cultivation levels looking at the enchantment of the ancestral land in awe. As soon as they saw him emerge, they all fell to their knees. He couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 2047. Tens of thousands of people surrounded the ancestral land. Their gazes were so familiar. It was the same as when he first entered the central continent and saw the supreme existence. Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with emotions. He felt that as long as he was here, he would be able to immerse himself in it. Everyone, get up. There's no need to be so restrained. Yi Qinghan gently waved his hand. A breeze blew past, and everyone involuntarily stood up. The leader of the ancient killing god sect asked respectfully, "May I know which old ancestor you are?" Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He didn't expect that the people from back then had already become the human ancestor. They must be gratified when they return. "I'm Yi Qinghan." Everyone's eyes lit up. This name was engraved in the hearts of everyone in the 9 continents. "Greetings, divine ancestor." What? Everyone knelt down again. Their eyes were filled with heartfelt reverence. Yi Qinghan helped everyone up again. He said solemnly, "Let's go somewhere else. I want to chat with you all. I won't disturb the human ancestors' rest here." Only then did everyone restrain their excitement. They followed Yi Qinghan to the square in front of the ancient killing god sect. After Yi Qinghan left for a long time, the ancestral land finally regained its calm. The light receded and the ancestral land fell into silence. In the square, Yi Qinghan sat on the chair at the front. The others were sitting on small stools. Some were even squatting on the ground, looking at Yi Qinghan with anticipation. They hoped that he would impart the Tao to them. Even if it was something about the outer realm, it would be good to increase their knowledge. Yi Qinghan didn't disappoint them. He first explained the experience of breaking through to the World Lord realm. These were all valuable experiences. Listening to him was definitely better than thousands of years of bitter cultivation. After sharing the experience of breaking through to the World Lord realm, Yi Qinghan once again explained the experience of breaking through to the lower realm. Hearing this, the leader of the ancient killing god sect opened his eyes wide. He wanted nothing more than to imprint Yi Qinghan's words in his mind. He was afraid that he would miss a single word. Yi Qinghan didn't hold back. He shared the experience he gained from risking his life. He only stopped when he reached the lower realm. 2 days and nights had passed. No one wanted to leave. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They all listened quietly. That's all for today. If I say too much, you fellows will not be able to digest it all. Instead, it will affect your cultivation efforts. Next, I will tell you about Eternal World so that you can have a general understanding of it. Yi Qinghan saw that everyone was in high spirits, so he didn't ruin their mood and continued speaking. The 9 provinces is only a small corner of the world. There are countless small regions like ours. There are countless experts in the outer realm. My strength is only above average in the outer realm. There are many who are stronger than me. There are also many who are hostile to us. If we want to survive, we can't hope that others will let us go. We have to rely on our own strength. Back then, I established the 9 provinces and protected it. Now, it's up to you all. Set your sights further. Set your goal on the outer realm. War is very close to us. Now we are in a state of peace. However, you must be prepared for war. If you want to fight, you can't rely on your will alone. You must have the strength to match it. World lords can't help much. I need you all to break through to the lower realm, middle realm, and upper realm. One day, you will stand behind me and fight alongside me. Yi Qinghan's voice was filled with passion and excitement. It didn't disperse for a long time. Be prepared at all times. Even if our blood stains the battlefield, we won't regret it even if we die. Wan Xiong roared. He was looking forward to the day when he could stand behind Yi Qinghan and continue the glory of the past. Yi Qinghan smiled with relief and said, I hope I don't need you all. I hope there will be no more war in the 9 provinces. War, to put it nicely, is a good opportunity for heroes to rise up. However, it is also a result of countless corpses. I don't want to see countless lives die under the butcher's knife. The ancient killing god knelt not far away from Yi Qinghan and said respectfully, Divine Ancestor is benevolent. Speaking of benevolence, Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. Only he knew that he wasn't benevolent. When he killed until his eyes turned red, even the heavens had to show him some respect. Not to mention Wan Xiong. But who was born with the desire to kill? Who didn't want to stay by their parents' side and treat them well so that they could rely on them in their old age? Yi Qinghan adjusted himself for a moment. Then, he explained the situation of the great world and the various powers. Then, he stood up and waved his hand. Holy light bathed the area and countless mystic techniques appeared in everyone's minds. However, they were all ordinary middle or lower level mystic technique. There weren't any powerful saint technique. Perhaps this will be enough for you all to enjoy for the rest of your lives. If there is a day when you are able to reach the middle level, you can come find me. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. After he finished speaking, Yi Qinghan stood up and walked towards Owl War Star. Farewell, Divine Ancestor. May the Divine Ancestor be well. Wan Xiong cried and knelt on the ground, watching Yi Qinghan leave. They looked at his back and hoped that they could help him. Yi Qinghan went to each place of his old friends. Unfortunately, things remained the same, but the people had changed. His old friends were no longer here, but the stars of life were still there. Owl War Star had become a primitive world. Spirit medicines were everywhere, spirit beasts roamed the world, and birds flew through the sky. The ruins of the Yi clan had changed beyond recognition. All of the buildings had decayed and vanished into thin air. Yi Qinghan stood on the ruins and respectfully bowed 3 times. He used his saint technique and bathed in immortal light to pray for the blessings of the Yi clan. The sun, moon, and stars appeared at the same time. Heaven and earth phenomena appeared. Heavenly dragons roared and colorful phoenixes cheered. The clouds twisted and turned into divine beasts. Myriad beasts prostrated before them. After a long time, Yi Qinghan stepped out of Owl War Star and entered Owl Fall Star. There were some buildings here, and they were built later. The location was in Owl Fall Star's Gaoyang country, at the edge of Jiangning County's 100,000 mountains. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and looked at the buildings. He had guessed that the Wang clan was here to reminisce about old times, so they stayed here for a while. The 100,000 mountains were still rolling up and down. Thousands of miles of mountains, rivers, and dragon veins were everywhere. The spiritual energy was overwhelming, and many spirit medicines were everywhere. Although the land was vast, there were few people. The resources were enough for everyone to use. Therefore, very few people came to destroy the birthplaces of the sacred ancestors. Even if they did, they would come with a heart of reverence. Yi Qinghan walked all over Owl Fall Star to comprehend life. With each step, his Tao heart became firmer. What he comprehended was also different. Divine power circulated around him, and he became more and more refined. Although he didn't cultivate these days, it was better than 100 years of hard work. His aura was one with the Tao here, and his cultivation had reached the middle stage of the middle level. With his personal strength, he might be able to reach the third-rate legendary level. Without the eternal sacred weapon, he could still defeat an expert like Shang Jingwen. With the eternal sacred weapon, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage against Xia Jiulong. Chapter 2048. Just as Yi Qinghan was about to let go of the knot in his heart, Xia Jiulong and Xian Xiu led the sacred nation's 10 divine generals, all of whom were peak upper realm experts, and 2 other legendary experts from other sacred lands, Gong Wuxing and the Thousand-Hand Buddha, toward the desolate region at the border of the blessed Buddha temple. Such a large commotion naturally attracted the attention of many factions, but only a few sacred lands took action. In the martial Tao Sage Sacred Land, Wu Zhenjuan looked sternly at Emperor Yi and Wu Xing'er and said firmly, "You two are fooling around. How are you going to fight Xia Jiulong's men? If you lead the Sacred Land's experts, won't the Sacred Nation declare war? Don't even think about it. Stay in the Sacred Land obediently." Emperor Yi glared at Wu Zhenjuan and replied even more resolutely, "Either you kill me today or I'll go to the desolate region." "How impudent! Is that how you speak to your father?" Wu Zhenjuan rebuked angrily. Emperor Yi glared at Wu Zhenjuan and said sadly, "Father, you're an eternal saint. Can't you see the relationship between Yi Qinghan and me? Can't you see the relationship between me and the 9 states? Can you bear to see me die in despair?" Wu Xing'er still hadn't recovered her memories, but the sisters were of one mind. She could feel Emperor Ye's sadness, so she begged Wu Zhenjuan with all her might. Wu Zhenjuan had children at an old age. Although he was an eternal saint, he still had feelings. How could he watch his 2 daughters die? However, if he didn't allow Emperor Yi and Wu Xing'er to go to the 9 states, they wouldn't want to live alone either. "I'll have Wu Zong accompany you, but you can only represent yourselves and not the sacred land. There will be danger." "It's not too late to regret it," Wu Zhenjuan said in a low voice. "I won't regret it. Father, call Wu Zong over. I want him to promise me that he won't do nothing. Otherwise, you have to kill him," Emperor Yi demanded resolutely. Wu Zhenjuan smiled wryly and could only agree to Emperor Ye's request. In the eternal sacred land of Sword Tao, 2 eternal saints sat across from each other. They controlled the stars as chess pieces, and with a wave of their hands, they settled everything. "Junior brother, do you think Yi Qinghan will die this time?" the Sword Tao Grand Eternity Saint asked calmly. Chess Venerable Saint lifted a chess piece and instantly stopped the torrential current, causing the celestial river to flow backward. He said leisurely, "Junior brother thinks that he won't die, but his small domain will be razed to the ground. If he goes crazy, the entire big world will be in turmoil, and the casualties will be unimaginable. How can Junior Brother be so sure? The Sword Tao Grand Eternal Saint smiled faintly. He did not believe that a mere middle-level cultivator could set off such a huge wave in the great world. Because he's Yi Qinghan. I know him. His future is not in anyone's control. If Senior Brother wants to do him a favor, it's best to help him when he's in need. If we miss this opportunity, even if the Sword Tao Grand Eternal Sacred Land can stand tall in the great world, it won't be as good as before, Chess Venerable Saint said solemnly. The Sword Tao Grand Eternal Saint sent a chess piece towards Chess Venerable Saint's camp like a sharp knife. He frowned and asked, "What do you think, Junior Brother? Use our hidden resources to ensure his safety this time. Give him a favor and wait for the future to bear fruit. In any case, the Holy Empire can't find out the origin of our hidden resources. Since we can give him a favor without offending him, why not?" Boom! Chess Venerable Saint placed another chess piece, completely neutralizing the opponent's attack and calming the world. Brilliant move. Junior Brother is indeed someone who achieved eternity through his own effort. We'll do as you say. I'll send 15 and 16 to the land of despair, the Sword Tao Grand Eternal Saint said with a smile. 2 men in black walked out of the Sword Tao Grand Eternal Sacred Land and disappeared under the cover of the night without alerting anyone. At the same time, in the sky-reaching cult, Fan Yin received the news and chased after Xia Jilong at lightning speed, hoping to intercept him in advance. At the same time, in the War Clan's imperial city, Zhang Yingshi found the Son of War to discuss the matter of heading to the Coiling Dragon Mystic Realm together. However, before they could reach a conclusion, their spies sent a secret report that Xia Jilong had led dozens of experts to the 9 Prefectures Small Region. The 9 Prefectures Small Region was originally a small and unknown place. However, it became a household name in just a few days. Everyone knew about it. When Zhang Yingshi heard the news, he was shocked. He said to the Son of War, "Yi Qinghan has gone to the 9 Prefectures. Both sides will definitely meet. When that happens, the 9 prefectures won't be the only one that will be destroyed." The Son of War was silent for a moment. His fingertips trembled slightly as he said indifferently, "I can't use the War Clan's resources, but we're friends. I can't just watch him die. This time, I will take action. If you want to go to Coiling Dragon Mountain, come with me and help him. If you can't, then forget it." Zhang Yingshi thought for a moment and nodded firmly. "All right, I'll go with you. However, you must think carefully. The 10 divine generals aren't ordinary upper realm cultivators. More importantly, since the 1,000-hand Buddha is involved, the 10 sacred Buddhas will definitely send out 3 to 5 sacred Buddhas. When the time comes, we'll always be at a disadvantage and could die at any time. As long as you have a clear conscience," the Son of War replied indifferently. In the Kuang Manor, the Kuang sect had been cultivating diligently and had been cut off from the outside world. However, today Jian Shisan came with news. When Di Longtian heard that Xia Jilong was leading a large group of experts to the land of the 9 states, his eyes widened. He didn't expect the crown prince of a holy empire to be so despicable as to attack a small region. Di Longtian quickly rushed to the back of the mountain and woke up all the sleeping experts of the Kuang sect. There were more than 30 of them, including Emperor Feng, Lin Shui, Zhou Shuguang, and Lord Fazhen. "This is bad. Prepare to head to the land of the 9 states. I'll go inform Wutian," Di Longtian hurriedly shouted. With that, Di Longtian rushed out of the back of the mountain. Everyone looked at each other in confusion. However, Yen Ao finally reacted and said, "Oh no, I'm afraid the land of the 9 states is under attack. Let's quickly gather outside the door." Outside the courtyard, Di Longtian respectfully knocked on the door and said in a deep voice, "Wutian, come out quickly. This is bad. The Holy Empire is attacking the land of the 9 states. At this moment, 2 auras were constantly clashing in the courtyard. The aura was terrifying, but it was blocked by the array. The auras of the 2 were actually at the upper realm. Jian Qinxue and Lin Wutian had been trained by the Green Lotus Sword deity for so many years. It was difficult for them not to advance. At this moment, Lin Wutian woke up from his seclusion. When he heard Di Longtian's shout, he hurriedly rushed out. After hearing Di Longtian's explanation, his expression changed. He returned to the courtyard and woke Jian Qinxue up. After bidding farewell to the Green Lotus Sword deity, he quickly rushed out of the Kuang manor. The Kuang sect had finished gathering. There were as many experts as there were clouds. There were 5 upper realm experts, and all of them were peerless experts. Emperor Feng, Lord Fazhen, and Lord Fazhen, Jian Qinxue and Lin Wutian, any one of them could defeat them. Longtian and Huang Peng, stay here and guard the Kuang manor. Don't let anyone enter the Kuang manor. The rest of you, follow me back to the land of the 9 states. Jian Qinxue's expression was solemn. Her aura was extraordinary, and her temperament was even stronger than before. No one could refute her sister-in-law's aura. Chapter 2049. At least 5 holy lands in the macro world were affected. Experts surged, and the weather changed. In the land of the 9 states, Yi Qinghan was unaware. At this time, he had returned to the imperial city and was preparing to teach the inner disciples of the Kuang sect before returning to the macro world. The imperial city was crowded. The entire 9 states seemed to know that the divine ancestor had returned. Experts rushed here. Even if they couldn't get the opportunity, it was worth it to see the hero of the past. Yi Qinghan stood on the mountain range above the divine dragon cauldron. The wind whistled and blew, and the bamboo flute appeared in his hand. He blew gently, and the sound of nature stirred the great path. His soul merged with the great path of the 9 states, improving the great path and making it more complete. It was like the complete great path order of the macro world, making the entire 9 states more rigorous and able to produce more powerful experts. The sound of the flute was melodious, and the great path of the firmament spread across the world. Holy light soared into the sky and bathed all creatures. Even the weeds swayed with the wind, wanting to absorb the spiritual chi of the world and transform into demons. The sound of the flute and the sound of nature intertwined, rising and falling with each other. It was extremely pleasing to the ears. All creatures in the world looked in the direction of the imperial city devoutly. Yi Qinghan comprehended the great path and completely merged it after a while. He transferred the great path of the macro world that he had comprehended to the great path of the 9 states, hoping that it could evolve and develop this small region into a macro world. A few days later, the great path roared and thousands of beasts roared. The bloodline advanced, and the pressure became stronger. The speed of the great path's evolution was far beyond Yi Qinghan's imagination. It was completely devouring Yi Qinghan's comprehension, then copying and evolving. Half a month later, the great path was stable, but the sound of the flute became stronger. Not only was Yi Qinghan not tired, but he was also refreshed. His entire person was one with the world, and his strength had improved a lot. After officially becoming a third-rate legendary, his personal cultivation was close to Fan Yin's, or perhaps even comparable. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's Taoist robe was inserted into the ground beside him. With the support of Yi Qinghan's aura, the great path roared again and evolved again. It was enough to support the birth of the middle or even upper levels, and there were definitely more than 1 or 2. Ho ho ho! The sound of the flute came to an abrupt end. Yi Qinghan put down the flute and heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Qinghan did not know how much time had passed, but he estimated that it had taken at least a month. However, he had benefited greatly. His temperament had mellowed and he looked more reserved. The entire imperial city was on their knees. The black mass of heads stared unblinkingly at Yi Qinghan with shining eyes. With a light step, Yi Qinghan arrived at the gate of the imperial city. He saw that the insane sect was maintaining order. Tens of thousands of inner disciples were present, and more than 10 true disciples were standing beside Yi Qinghan. Their eyes were shining brightly as they looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly. "Greetings, divine ancestor." There was no need for rehearsals because the person in front of them was not ordinary. The inner sect and true disciples of the wild faction all knelt down. Yi Qinghan smiled in relief. With a wave of his hand, he controlled the spring breeze, which spread out for hundreds of miles and helped everyone up. "Everyone, get up. There's no need to be restrained. I've come back this time to evolve my great Tao and teach you all." This time, Yi Qinghan didn't use his mouth to speak. Instead, he used his actions to display the essence of the sector lord level, the essence of advancing to the lower level realm. Every action contained the supreme principles and laws. Countless people were intoxicated. Even powerful existences like Yi Qinghan felt that they had benefited greatly. Yi Qinghan's great Tao was the most standard. It was enough for them to improve. This time, it took another month for everyone to wake up. They looked at Yi Qinghan reluctantly as he walked into the imperial city. In the imperial city, at the headquarters of the insane sect, Yi Qinghan came to the plaza and found that there was a sculpture of himself. The sculpture was vivid and lifelike as if it was alive. It was at least 30 meters tall and had its back facing the mountain, overlooking the plaza. Cultivating here was twice the result with half the effort. Everyone's fighting spirit had reached the peak. It was as if Yi Qinghan was really watching them cultivate. "Divine Ancestor Palace." The golden words were shining. Yi Qinghan pushed open the door and entered. There were many memorial tablets in the palace. They were all the experts of the insane sect who had died in battle. Every name was so familiar. Yi Qinghan stroked the memorial tablet. His heart sank to the bottom. After a long time, Yi Qinghan bowed 3 times to the memorial tablets and said hoarsely, "Brothers, I will always remember your names. If possible, I will do my best to find all of you." With that, Yi Qinghan slowly left the room and closed the door. Desolate Lord Yi brought more than 10 inner disciples to the plaza and respectfully knelt in front. Yi Qinghan did not let them get up. He waved his hand and created an illusion array to test this group of true disciples again. However, they passed the test easily. They did not regret it even if they died. Thus, he set up a sacred site and placed the most suitable secret technique in their sea of consciousness. At this time, Xia Jilong brought nearly 100 experts, including the experts of the 3 Holy Lands, the 10 sacred Buddhas, the 10 divine generals, 2 legendary experts, Xian Xiu, and many 9-star bounty hunters. They swept through the land of despair and headed toward the 9 state. Lin Jun was waiting for Yi Qinghan at the entrance. He occasionally entered the land of despair to train. Suddenly, he felt that there was a change in the land of despair. His expression changed. He quickly retreated and rushed toward the imperial city of the 9 state. Half a day later, in the imperial city, Yi Qinghan, a roar shook the mountains and rivers, alarming Yi Qinghan in the city. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. His figure flashed and appeared outside the city. Seeing Lin Jun's pale face, he quickly asked, "What happened?" "The 9 states is going to be destroyed. Many experts have come from the land of despair. They will probably attack the entrance soon." Yi Qinghan's expression changed. His figure flashed and appeared above the divine dragon cauldron. He used a divine technique to command the 9 states' divine cauldrons to suppress the land of the 9 state. "Guards of the 9 states' cauldrons, guard the 9 states' cauldrons. Don't let your guard down." Yi Qinghan made use of the great Tao. His voice rumbled and resounded throughout the land of the 9 states. The 9 states' cauldrons had fixed guards, and their cultivation was not weak. Most importantly, there were many of them. They were the first batch of troops trained by Yanao. Whoosh! The 9 States Guards were awakened. Divine light bloomed and shot into the sky. They set up a huge barrier and suppressed the 9 States cauldrons under the mountain range. All disciples of the insane sect, head to the other states to provide support. No mistakes. All sector lords, head to the 9 States cauldrons. Protect the 9 States cauldrons even if you have to die. Yi Qinghan gave out orders repeatedly. His voice was hurried and deafening. The world should have been shocked. However, the group of experts were not shocked. They felt that they finally had the chance to fight alongside Yi Qinghan. However, they did not know how terrifying the enemy was. Lin Jun, head to the entrance and guard the divine cauldron, Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Lin Jun immediately retreated. Yi Qinghan transformed into the Yin-Yang Bagua robe. He held the berserk hammer and made use of the great Tao of the 9 States to create 9 clones. They flashed and appeared above the 9 States cauldrons. He sat cross-legged above the 9 States cauldrons and put his palms together. Boom! A tearing sound shook the heavens and earth. The towering buildings collapsed. The heavens and earth shook and changed the color of the world. Xia Jilong started to attack the entrance. However, his powerful attack did not destroy the entrance. Instead, he was sent flying hundreds of zhang away. Chapter 2050. Xia Jilong was caught off guard and was sent flying by the rebounding force. His face was covered in dust and he was battered and exhausted. However, the entrance to the small domain was not broken through. What happened? Xian Xiu and the others were shocked. They looked at the entrance of the 9 prefectures' small domain. It was sparkling and full of profoundness. It was filled with high-level great Tao, and there were other divine techniques protecting it. Cough cough, Xia Jilong flew into a rage out of humiliation. He crawled up from the ground and glared angrily at the entrance. The bones of his hands were dripping with blood. This time, he had really failed. He had thought that this was just an ordinary small domain and that there were no experts inside. Therefore, he had unleashed all of his strength without even using his own defense. He had thought that he could instantly blast open the entrance of the 9 prefectures. Unfortunately, he had gone for wool and come home shorn. Ka ka ka. Xia Jilong mobilized his divine power to heal his injured body. Flames flickered in his eyes as he roared furiously. This damn small region actually has an expert who set up a powerful array and used a divine treasure to guard the entrance of the 9 prefectures. If we work together, I don't believe that we can't open the entrance. Nearly 100 experts joined forces. Divine power surged and their aura overflowed. The entire region could feel the ruthlessness of this place, and they all fled. In the inner realm, Yi Qinghan's 8 avatars and his original body sat cross-legged on the 9 cauldrons. Holy light soared into the sky as the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams Taoist robes flapped loudly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and threw out the heavy craze. The heavy craze tore through the void and appeared above the divine cauldron at the entrance, cooperating with the guards to guard the divine cauldron. Whoosh! The bamboo flute appeared across the world, across several great continents, and appeared above the divine cauldron in the north. Hum! The wishful bell roared, tearing apart the long river. It entered the eastern primal chaos province's endless small star systems, located above the ancestral land. There was also a divine cauldron here. The eternal sacred artifact glove rushed to the south, suppressing the divine cauldron. East, west, south, and north all had eternal sacred weapons or divine treasures that were second only to eternal sacred weapons. Together with the avatars, they suppressed the cauldron. As long as the cauldron was not destroyed, Xia Jilong would not be able to break through the entrance. Just the vibration alone would not hurt many people. Yi Qinghan was entrenched in the center of the array core, guarding the divine dragon cauldron. The start-whining vine was rooted in the ground, and countless vines wrapped around the mountain. The power produced by the countless vines was not to be underestimated. Screech! The god-devouring eagle spread its wings and soared into the sky, charging towards the other seemingly weaker cauldrons. The colorful snake also rushed out. Boom! Another deafening sound was heard, and the entire 9 prefectures began to shake. The various divine cauldrons wanted to rush up, but they were forcefully suppressed by Yi Qinghan's doppelganger and the surrounding experts. Many people with weaker cultivations were directly shattered, and blood dyed the sky red. However, no one cried out in alarm. Instead, they became even crazier and more excited. They were even willing to fight to the death. Countless people erupted with the will to die, and the psychokinesis they produced was insane. Xia Zhilong and nearly 100 experts joined forces to attack, but they still failed. Within the absolute region, Xia Zhilong's expression suddenly changed. He looked at the entrance with disbelief. Divine radiance shot out in tens of thousands of zhang. It was unknown just how much will power interweaved and supported by profound mysteries. Not only is there a formation in this small region, but there are also experts protecting it. Are we in the wrong place? Gong Wuxing asked with a frown. Xia Zhilong coldly glanced at Gong Wuxing. The corners of his mouth curled up as he sneered. Do you think I can't even find a small region? Gong Wuxing shrugged his shoulders. He knew that Xia Zhilong must be in a bad mood after being repeatedly humiliated, so he didn't argue with him. He just stood aside and waited for Xia Zhilong to think of a solution. Xia Zhilong waved his hand and summoned the Holy Dragon Robe and 9 Dragon Fan. His killing intent surged. It seemed like he was going to be serious. Cooperate with me again! Xia Zhilong roared. Whoosh! Xia Zhilong sucked out all the spiritual energy within 10,000 miles. The sky was filled with stars, and the sun and moon appeared at the same time. He was bathed in holy light as he activated the 9 Dragon Fan and smashed it at the entrance. Whoosh! The entrance instantly shriveled up, but it was still defended until the end. The barrier stood proudly. Although it was only a little bit off, the difference was huge. Xia Zhilong failed once again. Inside the realm, within the imperial city, Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of essence blood. He was guarding the formation I and had to endure the greatest force. If not for the 9 cauldrons and the Yin-Yang 8 trigrams robe helping him withstand a lot of force, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the attacks of so many experts. He would probably have been smashed to pieces and his blood would have dyed the sky red. Yi Qinghan licked the corner of his mouth. Only now did he know how many experts Xia Zhilong had brought to attack the entrance. Yi Qinghan put his palms together and recited scriptures. He merged them with the 9 states avenue and borrowed the power of the 9 states to guard the 9 cauldrons. He also used the 9 states avenue to look down on the absolute domain. When he saw Xia Zhilong and 100 experts preparing to break through, he said angrily, Xia Zhilong, are you forcing me to completely fall out with you and kill you at all costs? When Xia Zhilong heard this, he was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect to trap Yi Qinghan in the 9 states avenue this time. Ha 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 ha, there's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you insist on coming. Yi Qinghan, let's see where you can escape to today. Xia Zhilong was so angry that he laughed. The 9 Dragon Fan in his hand erupted with an even stronger aura. He wanted to break through the 9 states avenue's defense with the next attack. Yi Qinghan sneered and said, It's not that I'm looking down on you, but you can't break through my defense with just the few of you. Let's not talk about the other defenses, but how are you going to break through my array core? 90% of your joint attack will be affected by the Yin and Yang Bagua Taoist robe. In addition, the 9 cauldrons will disperse and the 9 states avenue will merge with me. Less than 1% of the attack will be transmitted to me. I'm afraid that when I can't bear it and the boundary is broken, your divine powers will be less than 10%. Any expert will be able to kill you all. Why don't you fight with me to the death? I'll bet 100 of your lives. You are all powerful existences. Is it worth it to bet 100 of your lives on my cheap life? Xia Jilong said coldly. Are you trying to fool me? Even if the joint attack of 100 of our people is not as powerful as that of an eternal saint, it's enough to have 10% of the attack power of a saint. How can you block the attack of a saint? Then let's try. I'll fight with you. If you can outlast me, I'll change my surname to Xia. Yi Qinghan sneered and mocked. Don't exhaust your divine powers in the end and let me kill you all. Attack. Break the boundary and kill Yi Qinghan. I'll grant you eternal prosperity. Xia Jilong was so angry that his killing intent spread in all directions. He pointed his 9-dragon fan at the entrance of the 9 state. Boom! Nearly 100 attacks burst out at the same time and gathered at the entrance. The limit of power was enough to break the sky. If it weren't for the protection of Yi Qinghan and the 4 eternal divine weapons, the entire 9 states would probably collapse. Whoosh, boom. Everyone in the 9 states was shocked. Only now did they realize how terrifying the enemy was. Panic spread, but the people who participated in the battle were all in high spirit. They were not afraid of death. More and more people died. The masters of the inner world rushed toward the 9 cauldrons. Those places were the lifeline of the 9 states. Once they were broken, the people of the 9 states would not be able to fight back. Yi Qinghan's body was in the eye of the formation. His eyes were closed. His soul left his body and merged with the way of the heavens to guard the 9 cauldrons. His body began to bleed, dyeing his Taoist robe red. The robe became more and more powerful, but there was always a limit. After all, it was not blessed by the omnipotent sage, so its power was limited. Boom! The attacks became more and more powerful. Yi Qinghan's body began to crack and was almost shattered. Yi Qinghan looked down at the outer world through the way of the heavens. So many masters were attacking tirelessly. If this continued, his body would collapse and his soul would not be able to withstand it. The eye of the formation would collapse. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and looked at the seal on the hilt of the frenzy sword. His body flashed and his soul entered his body. He reached out and grabbed it. Chapter 2051. Yi Qinghan reached out and berserk appeared in his hand. There were a total of 9 seals. The Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage had specifically instructed that the seals should not be opened unless it was absolutely necessary, especially the 9th seal. Yi Qinghan did not want to die together with these people, so he only opened the first seal. Whoosh! Boom! Berserk exploded with a blinding light that tore through the sky. It stabbed into the cauldron of the dragon god like a bolt of lightning. Boom! The light from Berserk shot in all directions. Shock waves swept in all directions and completely suppressed the cauldron of the dragon god. Yi Qinghan stepped on the hilt of Berserk's sword and reached into the sky with his palms. Using the 9 states' great path, he completely controlled the eye of the formation. No matter how strong the outside attacks were, the inner world did not move at all. It was as if Xia Jilong had stopped attacking. However, Yi Qinghan, who was bearing all the impact, knew that not only did their attacks not slow down, they actually sped up. Eternal Berserk withstood the impact, but it needed to devour Yi Qinghan's power to maintain its operation. Before the seal was opened, Yi Qinghan could use it freely. However, once the first seal was opened, its absorption speed increased by more than 100 times. Even with the 9 states' great path supporting Yi Qinghan's golden body of the Absolute Sage, it was difficult to maintain its operation. The divine power in Yi Qinghan's body was quickly drained. Then, with the help of the power of heaven and earth, the expenditure was far greater than the absorption. The surface of his body, which was originally smooth and glossy with divine light flowing around it, was now dull and lifeless, like wrinkled old tree bark. Time passed bit by bit. He had fought alone for an entire day, but what could he do in this amount of time? Yi Qinghan could not even lift his eyelids. He was so tired that he could only stand on the mountaintop and hold berserk with both hands. However, Xia Zhilong and the others were not much better off than Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! Whoosh! Nearly 100 people were panting and their faces were pale. In the end, they could only stop. Half of you rest, half of you continue attacking. I want Yi Qinghan to die of exhaustion in the 9 states domain, Xia Zhilong said angrily. Soon, Xian Xiu led a group of experts to continue attacking. Xia Zhilong, the 10 divine generals, the immortal Buddha, and 2 other legendary experts sat cross-legged on the ground and devoured sacred herbs. Their divine power was rapidly recovering. Xia Zhilong and the others could recover their strength, but Yi Qinghan could not handle so many people. He was already exhausted. Yi Qinghan's eyes glowed with a blood-red light. He slowly released his hands, allowing Kuang Zhong to maintain the divine dragon cauldron on his own. Although it wasn't as powerful as before, at least he had a chance to rest and recuperate. At the same time, another figure appeared in the land of despair. It was none other than Fanine. However, she was not in a hurry to approach the entrance. After all, how could she withstand the siege of so many experts by herself? Fanine was hiding on top of a mountain. He concealed his aura and used thorny shrubs to cover his body. He looked at the entrance of the land of the 9 states from afar. The red thread in his hand was wrapped around his fingertips, waiting for the entrance to the land of the 9 states to break. Fanine's heart almost jumped out of her throat when she saw that the boundary around the entrance was completely distorted and could break at any time. It's a pity that I can't enter the land of the 9 states. Otherwise, I might be able to hold them off for a bit longer if I joined forces with him, Fanine muttered to herself. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan had not only stopped Xia Zhilong, but also her. In fact, Fanine wasn't the only one who had come. 2 legendary experts from the eternal sacred land of Sword Dao were there as well. They might not be as strong, but they were still legendary experts. The 2 of them hid further away, and could only wait for the right opportunity to join in. Everyone was a top-tier expert, and they were very far away from each other. If they wanted to hide, it would be impossible for them to discover each other. Time passed slowly. Fanine was burning with anxiety. Her thread was stretched taut, but there was nothing she could do. Suddenly, a sword's whistle pierced through the void. The crisp sound caused the sky to ripple. Lin Wutian rode on his divine sword alone and appeared at the end of the galaxy. Xia Zhilong and the others all looked up at the sky. Lin Wutian's aura was definitely that of an upper realm expert. He was 1 step ahead of Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong. However, there was too little time. His combat strength was obviously 1 level lower than Xia Zhilong and Yi Qinghan. However, he was only 1 level lower. He could defeat the 2 top-tier experts in a second by relying on his cultivation realm. What he lacked was his foundation. He didn't have an eternal sacred garment like Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong, but he didn't have an eternal sacred weapon. In order to protect the land of the 9 states and Yi Qinghan, Lin Wutian rushed towards the land of despair as fast as he could. Whoosh! There was a figure following behind Lin Wutian. The distance between them wasn't very far. However, as soon as they appeared, the whole land of despair was suddenly covered in snow. Jian Qinshu also rushed over. In the land of the 9 states, the 9 states avenue kept roaring, reminding Yi Qinghan of the situation outside the land of despair. Yi Qinghan knew that Lin Wutian and Jian Qinshu had reached the sky above the land of despair. He didn't dare to waste any more time. He picked up his saber and rushed to the exit of the land of the 9 state. Boom! The bounty hunters were still attacking desperately. The boundary collapsed, but they were still holding on. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's eyes were shining. At this time, he had recovered 80% of his strength. The heavy frenzy in his hand was surging. His Taoist robe was pale red, stained with blood. His speed was so fast that the land of the 9 states couldn't stop him. He rushed to the entrance in a moment. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan picked up heavy frenzy and raised it domineeringly. He held the saber hilt with both hands and stared at the boundary of the exit. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth was overwhelming and gathering. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The saber radiance on heavy frenzy tore and gathered his peak strength. The moment the boundary was broken, he turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed out. Boom! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's saber radiated the aura of an upper realm expert wielding an eternal sacred weapon. The airwave swept out and shattered the attacks of the bounty hunters. It broke through their defenses with the speed of lightning and approached their bodies. Boom! Just when Xia Jilong and the others didn't have time to react, Yi Qinghan rushed out and caught them off guard. Boom! Nearly 100 people were hit by this saber. The range was so wide that it covered half of the land of despair. The limit of its power was enough to destroy all living things. The mountain rocks were crushed into powder by the saber radiance. The hills were uprooted by the saber radiance, and the ancient trees were turned into fragments. Boom! This saber hit the bounty hunter at the front. The pupils of the upper realm bounty hunter who was hit by the heavy frenzy shrank. Then, his entire body lost consciousness. His blood didn't even spill out before his entire body was annihilated. Boom! There were dozens of bounty hunters. The weakest and the strongest were in the upper realm. But in an instant they were all pierced by the eternal sacred weapon. Even their souls couldn't escape. The group of experts at the back was so frightened that their faces turned ashen. They didn't even care about the danger behind them. They flew back thousands of meters and rushed thousands of meters away in a few flashes. Xia Jilong's pupils shrank. The holy dragon robe supported his physical body. The 9 dragons of the 9 dragon fan soared into the sky and gathered into a huge dragon. It swallowed Yi Qinghan and wanted to swallow heavy frenzy. Chapter 2052. Xia Jilong's reaction was fast. He used his strongest attack to counter Yi Qinghan's. Divine power surged, and the aftershock flattened the surrounding area. Dozens of experts were sent flying. Boom! The 2 eternal divine weapons collided with terrifying momentum. Even Fanine retreated involuntarily for fear of being killed by the eternal divine weapons. Yi Qinghan and Xia Jilong looked at each other ferociously. The 9 dragon fan collided with the eternal divine weapon, and they were evenly matched. In an instant, everything in the world seemed to be frozen. The 2 gritted their teeth and wanted to push each other back. Get lost! Yi Qinghan let out a furious roar that sounded like a clap of thunder. The veins on his body bulged, and holy light shot up into the sky. His aura soared once again, sending Xia Jilong flying. The force of the impact sent Yi Qinghan flying hundreds of feet away. He crushed the mountain rocks under his feet, and his long blades slashed through the ground. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yi Qinghan's breathing quickened. He could not vent his anger. He shouted at Xia Jilong angrily, "Xia Jilong, I treat you as a hero, but you treat yourself as a dog. You actually want to attack a small region. Ridiculous. Don't you find it embarrassing?" Xia Jilong's face turned cold. He clenched his fists, and 9 heavenly dragons rushed out of the 9 dragon fan. The divine dragon in the holy dragon robe swam around his golden body. The attack just now did not hurt him at all. "Yi Qinghan, you're still twisting words and forcing logic? The small region of the 9 states died because of you. You have to bear the responsibility for their deaths," Xia Jilong said coldly. "Can you kill them? Turn around and look behind you." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He raised the corner of his mouth and mocked. There were people standing on more than 10 mountains. They were all powerful. Fan Yin, Lin Wutian, Jian Qinxue, 2 hidden sword experts of the Sword Principal Sect, Sword 15 and Sword 16, Emperor Yi and Wu Xing Wu Zong, Son of War, Zhang Yingshi, Lord Fazhen, and Demon Venerable. Their cultivation was very powerful, and their equipment was not ordinary. They were definitely much stronger than Gong Wusheng and the Thousand-Hand Buddha. Xia Zhilong took a few steps back and turned around. His expression changed. He did not expect so many experts to come this time. Do you all want to get involved in this matter? Is it worth it to offend me for this bastard? Xia Zhilong asked coldly. Lin Wutian flicked the scabbard with his thumb, and the sound of the sword resonated through the clouds in response to Xia Zhilong. Zhang Yingshi silently looked at the battlefield, took a deep breath, and said indifferently, 9 Dragons Crown Prince, I also don't want to participate in this matter, but it concerns my interests, so I have no choice but to take action. If you give me face, then take your people and leave this place. Also, promise that you won't attack the small territory again. I will remember this favor. Fazhen Demon Ancestor said in a deep voice, 9 Dragons Crown Prince, this seat has already joined the insane sect. If you attack the insane sect, this seat will definitely fight to the death. Wu Zong smiled bitterly. Although he was in the legendary level, he did not want to offend Xia Zhilong at all. But now that he was taking orders from Emperor Yi and Wu Xing, he had no choice but to say, 9 Dragons Crown Prince, I'm sorry. I don't represent the sacred ground. I only take orders from these 2 little ancestors. Please think twice. Son of War stared at Xia Zhilong and said firmly, since I'm here, I will definitely participate in this matter. If you retreat, I'm sure Brother Yi won't be so aggressive. If you don't leave, I don't think more than 10 people will be able to leave this place alive today. Sword 15 and Sword 16 did not speak. They were dressed in black, and even their faces were covered. It seemed that they did not want to reveal their identities. Their big hands were on the hilts of their swords, indicating their attitude. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, the top experts of the insane sect rushed over one after another. They landed in all directions, drawing their swords and glaring angrily. Fanin's attitude was obvious. She sat on the top of the mountain, casually sucking on a weed. Her legs were crossed, and the string in her hand was wrapped around her. She was wearing a yin-yang Taoist robe, which was naturally an eternal sacred artifact grade defensive saint garment. With this defense, Xia Zhilong and her would at most be injured. Yo, Crown Prince, you don't look too good. Do you want to fight today or not? Fan Yin mocked. Xia Zhilong was furious. He scolded, why not? In terms of numbers and individual combat power, do you think we'll lose? Fan Yin looked at Thousand-Hand Buddha and Gong Wusheng with an evil smile. Her figure flashed, and she appeared beside them. She laughed. You two want to participate too? Do you think I won't dare to kill you too? Gong Wusheng and Thousand-Hand Buddha's expressions changed drastically. They smiled bitterly and said, Senior Sister Fan Yin, we just want to kill Yi Qinghan. We don't want to have a conflict with you. Fan Yin rubbed her hands and said frankly, I just want to kill you too. I don't want to have a conflict with the sacred ground behind you. Do you think they won't bother with me? Yi Qinghan snorted and said coldly, Wutian, once the battle starts, kill them both. I'll take responsibility for the consequences. Gong Wusheng and Thousand-Hand Buddha's expressions changed drastically. They didn't dare to participate. Although the legendary stage was powerful, they weren't invincible. Fan Yin and Lin Wutian could kill them. Gong Wusheng's personality wasn't like other legendary stage expert. If he wasn't a match for them, wouldn't he be a fool not to run? Therefore, he was the first to shake his head and said to Fan Yin, I'll give Senior Sister some face. I'll leave first. I won't have any thoughts about the small region of Jiuzhou in the future. I'll leave first. You guys go ahead. After saying that, Gong Wushing signaled the remaining bounty hunters to retreat quickly. In an instant, more than 10 people were gone. The number of people on both sides was basically equal. However, Xia Zhilong's people's cultivation was still higher than the crazy sex group. However, their equipment was far inferior to Yi Qinghan's group. Yi Qinghan didn't want to fight either. At least not now. If they continued to fight in this place, the small region of Jiuzhou would definitely be affected. By then, there would be countless casualties. Xia Zhilong, if you're a man, don't use the small region to threaten me. If you want to kill or fight, come and find me. If I back down even half a step, I'll change my surname to yours, Yi Qinghan said coldly. Xia Zhilong clenched his fists, his fingertips trembling slightly. The heavenly dragon robe swayed as he stared at Fazhin Demon's supremacy and Zhang Yingshi. He didn't care about the others, but he had to care about these two people. The two of them were definitely in the upper plane. If they killed, they could kill many experts in an instant and stop the 10 great godly generals. Let's go. Xia Zhilong suppressed his anger. He knew that this mission had failed again. He could only look for other opportunities, so he turned and left. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes as he stared at their backs. The saber in his hand was trembling. He was trying his best to suppress his anger. He didn't want to affect the inner world because of this battle. However, if this seed was planted, it would explode sooner or later. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, let me tell you something. Yi Qinghan is now a pro-disciple of the Sky Reaching School. Therefore, his territory belongs to the Sky Reaching School. If you attack the territory of the Sky Reaching School again, it's tantamount to declaring war against the Sky Reaching School. Since you didn't know about it, you're not guilty. But now I've told you. If such a bad thing happens again, I won't be able to explain it. Fan Yin said coldly while looking at Xia Zhilong's back. Xia Zhilong's breath stagnated and his body stiffened. In the end, he didn't turn around and chose to leave. Chapter 2053. Xia Zhilong had no choice but to retreat. He was unable to contend against the combined might of so many holy lands. He was the #1 veteran expert of the Great World and the Crown Prince, yet not many people were willing to help him. Yi Qinghan was nothing more than a backwater country bumpkin. Why had he received the support of so many people? Xia Zhilong's breathing quickened as he left. His eyes shone with a frightening light. Xian Xiu sighed sadly when he saw Xia Zhilong's reaction. He knew that the Cloud Dragon Sage had given Xia Zhilong a mission. He didn't know what would happen after this failure. At the entrance to the 9 provinces, Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and bowed to the other factions. If they hadn't arrived in time, the 9 provinces would have been reduced to ruins. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for coming to help. I can't thank you enough. I'm willing to repay you with my life next time, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. You're welcome. We were just there to show our support. We didn't do anything, Zhang Yingshi said coolly. The Prince of War and the others hurriedly returned the gesture. Only the 2 men in black didn't move. Yi Qinghan looked up at the men in black. He didn't know which faction they were from. Fellow Taoists, he asked hurriedly, can you tell me who you are? I'll repay this favor many times over in the future. One of the men in black glanced at Yi Qinghan coolly and said, You'll understand in the future. Since the 9 Dragons Crown Prince has retreated, we should go back and report. With that, the 2 men in black took to the air and disappeared in a flash. Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked in the direction the 2 men in black had disappeared. He still didn't know who they were. At this moment, Lin Wutian ran up to Yi Qinghan and whispered in his ear, There's pure sword energy hidden on them. You might not be able to sense it since you don't cultivate the sword Dao, but I can sense sword intent on them. They've even condensed a sword heart. I suspect that they're from the eternal sacred land. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He looked at Lin Wutian's cultivation and saw that he had already reached the upper level. His sword principle had already surpassed the younger generation. He couldn't help but reach out and pat Lin Wutian's shoulder. He nodded and said, "I know. Don't tell anyone about this." Lin Wutian respectfully retreated behind Yi Qinghan and stood to the side like a junior without saying anything else. At this moment, Wu Xing'er frowned as she recalled the scene where Yi Qinghan killed so many experts and fought against Xia Jilong. She couldn't shake the feeling that the scene was somewhat familiar. That aura, that appearance, it was as if she had seen it before. Wu Xing'er clutched her forehead. Some scattered memories kept appearing and intertwining, but she couldn't remember where they had happened. The chaotic memories made her feel a little pained. Emperor Yi looked at Wu Xing'er in shock and hurriedly asked, "Elder sister, are you all right?" Wu Zong hurriedly looked at Wu Xing'er and asked in shock, "Little ancestor, please don't let anything happen to you. Otherwise, the old ancestor will beat me to death. If you have any requests, just tell me and I will definitely help you." Wu Xing'er frowned. Countless fragments of memories flashed through her mind. None of them were complete. After all, she'd gone through reincarnation. It was already terrifying that she could recover her memories. Yi Qinghan saw Wu Xing'er's reaction and knew that she was recovering her memories. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Emperor Yi and Wu Xing'er. He hurriedly said, "She's recovering her memories. I'll take her to a place. It'll speed up her recovery." With that, Yi Qinghan quickly left with Wu Xing'er, leaving behind an urgent message. "Everyone, please go to the 9 states and wait for me for a few days." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and brought Wu Xing'er through time and space. They appeared in Peach Blossom City where Bai Shaoxing had died. It was still the same lake. The familiar scene, the familiar lake, and the familiar faces. "Shaoxing, it's me. Wake up and walk a few laps with me. You'll understand." Yi Qinghan stabilized Wu Xing'er's shoulders and looked straight into her eyes. Wu Xing'er was a little more awake now. She looked at the lake, the winding paths around the lake, and the endless forests on both sides of the paths. This familiar scene made her feel a little scared. "I've been here before. I've definitely been here before," Wu Xing'er exclaimed. Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Of course you've been here before. I walked tens of thousands of laps with you on this path." With that, Yi Qinghan held Wu Xing'er's hand and slowly walked forward. 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 laps. Wu Xing'er slowly became immersed in this atmosphere. She restrained her chaotic emotions and immersed herself in this role. She walked with Yi Qinghan until the sky darkened and then until dawn. The more they walked, the brighter her eyes became. "I remember now. I seem to understand now. I've been here before. The person I loved the most accompanied me through the last moments of my life, until the end of time. It's you. It's also you who accompanied me all the way here." Wu Xing'er's face glowed. She finally understood everything. She suddenly took the initiative to grab Yi Qinghan's hand and hugged him tightly. "I'm Bai Shaoxing. Your big brother Yi." Bai Shaoxing was back. She excitedly hugged Yi Qinghan and cried tears of joy. Everything was back. Yi Qinghan was also quite emotional. That little girl died so unwillingly. She wanted to borrow another 500 years from the heavens. Now, she finally got it. Yi Qinghan pulled Bai Shaoxing into a tight embrace. His eyes were full of emotions as he spoke with a hoarse voice. "It's good that you're back. You and Huang'er are both back. I didn't waste my time offending the Lord of Hell and then the blessed Buddha temple. The cycle of karma led to this day. Big Brother Yi, thank you for your hard work." Bai Shaoxing's memories were fully restored. Her passionate love seemed to be even stronger than Emperor Ye's. Yi Qinghan understood that Bai Shaoxing's love was passionate and passionate. Emperor Ye's love was reserved and couldn't be compared. "Come, let's go back. After I'm done with my business, we can slowly catch up." Yi Qinghan smiled. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan brought by Shaoxing back to the imperial city. At this time, Lin Wuqian and Jian Qinxue had already brought a large group of experts into the imperial city and arranged for everyone to stay. Zhang Yingshi, Fan Yin, and the others looked at the way the creatures in the land of the 9 prefectures lived, and their eyes widened. Is there such a place? There are no large-scale wars. There are no wars between creatures. Is this the legendary Peach Blossom Spring? The people from the macro world couldn't understand the feelings of the creatures in the land of the 9 prefectures. They couldn't understand the passionate worship and reverence they had for Yi Qinghan and the Guangzong. Why is it like this? Why do they worship and respect the Guangzong so much? The Son of War didn't understand. Zhang Yingshi didn't understand. Fan Yin didn't understand either. They were all from the Holy Lands. The creatures under their influence wouldn't worship and respect their own holy land. However, the creatures in the land of the 9 prefectures worshipped and respected the Guangzong more than anything. They were even willing to give up their lives for the Guangzong and their beliefs. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.